Chapter 1500. The delicate second senior sister of the sword sect was speechless when she heard him call her second senior sister. She was really so angry that her entire body trembled. Did he not feel sorry for her? Was he not angry? Why was he excited? Why? Of course, Fan Jian's excitement couldn't compare to the harm caused to her when he called her number 2. She was the number 1 female sword immortal that was adored by all in the sword sect. No matter if it was in terms of appearance, she wasn't inferior to the noble ladies of the various great immortal sections. The sword sect's third senior brother felt a headache coming on. He could feel Jian Xiuxiu's murderous gaze. He did not dare to call her second senior sister. In fact, in the entire sword sect, other than Fan Jian, no one dared to call her second senior sister. Is that person that strong? He defeated senior sister in such a short time. The sword sect's third senior brother frowned and said, "Who is he? He barged into our sword sect's land of fortune. He has ill intentions. You were defeated too." At this moment, a black-robed man walked out of the third grotto heaven. He was tall and was bathed in the divine light of the sword. He was powerful and intimidating. His eyes were like killing swords that were opening and closing. Eldest senior brother. Jian Xiuxiu and third senior brother hurriedly walked over and asked in surprise, "Eldest senior brother, did you lose too?" Fan Jian's heart skipped a beat. The sword sect's eldest senior brother could also be called a candidate for the son of Saint. If he died, the sword sect's eldest senior brother would become the new son of Saint. Jian Jingshan's combat strength was extremely strong. If Fan Jian did not use his trump card, he could fight Jian Jingshan for thousands of times. If that person could defeat the 3 top void immortals of the sword sect in such a short time, his combat strength would be terrifying. Their combat prowess was rather frightening. Most importantly, had Jian Jingshan been defeated as well? Not really. Jian Jingshan frowned and said, "I fought with that person, but he did not linger. After fighting for a while, he retreated. Before he left, he finished exploring the entire third grotto heaven. He seemed to be looking for something. Of course, I can conclude that he is very strong. He has surpassed me. Otherwise, he would not have the heart to explore the third grotto heaven." Jian Jingshan's expression was solemn. The other party did not seem like he was here to cause trouble, but to search for fortune. Jian Xiuxiu and third senior brother looked at each other. Their expressions changed as they said at the same time, "This is bad. Son, that person explored the sword sect's 4 sacred sword domain. Could it be that he knows the sword sect? If that's really the case..." Jian Jingshan's face instantly turned cold as he said, "This person should be in the 4th paradise right now. With the 4 of us working together, I really don't believe that there's anyone in this world who can stop us." Jian Jingshan was filled with murderous intent. They were well aware of the importance of the 4 sacred sword realm. The founder of the sword sect had once obtained a heaven-defying opportunity in the 10,000 tribes battlefield and made it into the top 10 of the monarch ranking. A single man and a single sword, without any support, had made it to the top 10 on the monarch ranking. What kind of supreme glory was this? Someone once said that if the expert was supported by an immortal sect, he or she would have a chance to become a supreme on the monarch ranking. From then on, his name spread far and wide. He created the House of Sword and attracted talents from all over the world to join him. That was how the sword sect was born. It had been passed down for a long time. Under the leadership of the sword sect's founding ancestor, it had always been strong, and it had always been a flourishing immortal sect. He was a legendary figure who had founded an immortal sect. He was one of the most powerful figures in the immortal heavenly domain. It was even said that the sword sect's sky hegemon sword was closely related to the 4 sacred sword realm. However, the rumors were only spread within the sword sect. The experts in the outside world were unaware of it. As such, the 4 sacred sword realm was too important. The sword sect would never allow anyone to get close to it. Su Yan's sudden appearance in the sword sect had exceeded their expectations. Come, let's go in and take a look. The geniuses of the 4 sacred sword sects had joined hands to enter the 4th sacred sword realm. Their hearts skipped a beat when they were faced with the terrifying suppression of their souls. They were all illusionary immortals, but even with their strength, it was difficult for them to stay in the 4th sacred sword realm for a long time. The geniuses of the 4 sacred sword sects were qualified to comprehend the sword intent in the 3rd sacred sword realm. However, the 4th sacred sword realm was different. The terrifying sword intent could easily slice one's soul apart. Even Fan Jian found it difficult to stay in the 4th sacred sword realm for a long time. It was as if the 3rd sacred sword realm had drunk the blood of billions of living beings. The sword intent lingered in the air, affecting their minds. Fan Jian had explored the 4 sacred sword realms many times. However, he did not find anything useful. Fan Jian assumed that the sword sect's founding ancestor had taken all the fortune here. It's him. At this moment, Jian Xiuxiu's face turned cold. Although she looked beautiful and charming, she was especially shocking when she went berserk. Her slender figure released surging sword light. Behind her, the Milky Way of the 9 heavens intersected, transforming into astral killing swords that tore through space. The 4 experts quickly approached. They did not expect to find Su Yan so easily. Could it be that this fellow was ignoring the entire sword sect? What the hell? There's nothing here. What kind of dog's hit place is this? There's not even a single hair. Could it be that the sword sect's people took it all away? Su Yan's muttering caused Fan Jian's face to darken. Damn, I didn't find anything. The fortune here must have been taken away by the founding ancestor. This fellow. Jian Jingshan clenched his teeth. He saw Su Yan sighing, muttering, and being disappointed. He spoke as if the sword mound was his blessed paradise. Did he understand the situation? At the same time, Su Yan's face was filled with doubt. He could vaguely sense that the 4 sacred sword realms were not simple. However, Su Yan found it difficult to pry into the mysteries of the heaven-opening writing brush while he was in control of it. This made Su Yan puzzled. Could it be that the fortune here was so heaven-defying that even the heaven-opening writing brush found it difficult to explore? Although he could not resurrect the heaven-opening writing brush, there were very few places of fortune in this world that he could not explore with the heaven-opening writing brush and the eye of heaven escape. Without a doubt, the more this was the case, the more Su Yan valued the 4 sacred sword realms. Perhaps he really needed a special method to have a chance of opening the land of fortune here. Therefore, this gave Su Yan a headache. He had encountered a difficult problem. You're here. At this moment, Su Yan also noticed the experts of the 4 sword sects approaching and said, "Fellow Taoists, I don't have any ill intentions. I'll leave after exploring." How arrogant! Fan Jian stared at Su Yan excitedly. He was too confident to say such words in front of them in the sword sect's territory. Kid, don't be arrogant. Jian Xiuxiu was fuming. She pointed at Su Yan and said, "If it's really a life-and-death battle, you might not be able to suppress me easily. Why? Do you want to keep me here?" Su Yan frowned. Hearing this, Jian Jingshan walked forward and said to Su Yan, "Who exactly are you? What's your purpose here?" "I just want to find some handy weapons," Su Yan said helplessly. "Unfortunately, there's nothing here. I made a wasted trip." "Sigh, you're quite direct." Jian Jingshan snorted coldly. "This sword tomb belongs to my sword sect. You can't even take away a single blade of grass or tree here." "You're quite arrogant," Su Yan said coldly. "The Myriad Clan battlefield is not your sword sect's private property. Any treasure will belong to the capable. Since I'm here, I'm not afraid of your sword sect." "Well said." Fan Jian laughed and walked forward, saying, "Friend, you're right. Treasures belong to the capable. However, if you're not skilled enough, You should take back your words as soon as possible. Holy Son, Jian Jingshan said softly, the four of us should join forces and suppress him first. Fan Jian waved his hand nonchalantly and said, You don't have to do it. I can do it alone. Jian Jingshan was helpless. This guy's old habit was acting up again. However, since Fan Jian had taken action, he was relieved. With Fan Jian's strength, if Su Yan was really a sword cultivator, he would definitely lose. Their sword sex Sky Hegemon's sword was the most powerful treasure. Fan Jian had long been able to merge with the Sky Hegemon sword's sword intent. Now, his sword cultivation had surpassed the sword sex disciples by too much. Even the Patriarch was full of praise, saying that it was only a matter of time before Fan Jian became a golden immortal. The best sword in the world. Su Yan looked at Fan Jian with interest. He had heard of his reputation in the Nine Cauldron continent, but he did not expect to meet him in the sword domain world today. Haha, it's just a title. It's not worth mentioning. Although Fan Jian said that, he was still extremely proud. He smiled and said, There's no doubt that you're powerful. However, you've barged into my clan's land of fortune and injured so many of my junior brothers. It's a little unreasonable. What do you want? Su Yan asked. I did injure some people, but they were all superficial wounds. It's nothing. I'm not here to cause trouble. Your sword sect won't go so far as to spare my life, right? Of course I know that. Fan Jian was ready to make a move. He said, however, as the holy son of the sword sect, it's not right for me to not take action. Moreover, you've killed my clan's geniuses in succession. As the holy son of the sword sect, how can I not draw my sword? I want to challenge you now. Challenge me? Su Yan was surprised and looked at Fan Jian strangely. After all, he was the strongest person in the sword sect. His combat strength was extraordinary. He was definitely qualified to fight for the strongest position on the emperor rankings. Jian Xiuxiu covered her mouth and laughed. She thought to herself, this guy is going to be unlucky. How could he be called the strongest swordsman in the world for nothing? In the past, Fan Jian had spent close to 10 years challenging the experts of the major immortal sections. He had fought his way through one continent after another. He had earned his reputation through killing. I've heard that if you, Fan Jian, lose, you'll have to take whoever you want as your master. Su Yan was also eager to fight with this kind of peerless genius. After all, Fan Jian was the holy son of the sword sect. His strength was enough to rank him in the top 100 of the immortal heavenly domain. Ever since Su Yan had reached the immortal realm, he had never fought with a peerless genius. Therefore, Su Yan was looking forward to it. His battle blood began to boil. Hearing this, Fan Jian was stunned. He narrowed his eyes and said unkindly, Kid, you want to defeat me? You want to take me as your disciple? You're really arrogant. How would I know if I don't try? Su Yan's words made Jian Xiuxiu and the rest shudder. This person's strength was not to be underestimated. Could it be that he still had the confidence to fight with Fan Jian? Fan Jian's expression darkened slightly. He looked at Su Yan and said, Since you want to engage in this kind of battle, let's make it clear beforehand. If you lose, you will hand over the most precious treasure you have. If I lose, I will immediately acknowledge you as my master. Holy Son. Jian Jingshan felt a headache coming. He was about to say something when he suddenly sneered. Once, the sword sect's old ancestor was so frightened by the bet between Fan Jian and his opponent that he almost went crazy. However, reality had proven that Fan Jian had the right to be arrogant. Even if Su Yan was strong enough, he could at most fight Fan Jian to a draw. Kid, take out the most precious treasure you have. Fan Jian rubbed his hands excitedly. He looked at Su Yan as if he was looking at a boy who gave him treasures. Most precious treasure? Su Yan felt a headache coming on. He said, I have many treasures on me, but I really can't tell which is the most precious. I say, can you hurry up? Don't waste my time. Fan Jian could no longer hold back and urged, take out some immortal Dao treasures, secret arts and abilities, or the sword Dao abilities you've cultivated. Before he could finish his sentence, Su Yan subconsciously thought of something. I do have an extremely precious treasure. Su Yan pretended to be deep and said, I just don't know if you dare to accept it or not. What treasure? Is there anything I don't dare to accept? Fan Jian was annoyed. Take it out and let me take a look. A beauty. Su Yan smiled. A beauty? Fan Jian was stunned. He scratched his head and did not know what to say. Tsk, this hooligan. Jian Xiuxiu spat. Her cheeks flushed red. She glared at Fan Jian and said, No, change it. What do you want a beauty for? After saying that, Jian Xiuxiu stuck out her large chest as if to say, What beauty can compare to me? It's fine to take a look. Why don't you take it out and let me take a look? Fan Jian did not believe that there was something in this world that he did not dare to accept. Su Yan directly took out Xian Bailing and said to them, What do you think of this beauty? If you don't dare to accept it, I won't pay the bet. Chapter 1501. Xian Bailing was the proud daughter of the Xian people. Her skin was snow white, and she was full of vitality. Her graceful figure exuded a noble aura. Now that she was Su Yan's prisoner, she looked very charming. Her snow-white skin glowed, and she struggled violently, trying to break the seal Su Yan had placed on her. Unfortunately, no matter how hard she struggled, she couldn't break the power source Su Yan had placed on her. She screamed angrily, You lunatic, do you know who I am? Let me go immediately. My grandfather is the ancestor of the Xian people. Do you want to die? As a virtual immortal of the Xian people, she had a noble status. No matter where she was a noble lady surrounded by stars. She had countless suitors, and with one word from her, countless geniuses would sell their lives for her. But now, as a prisoner, Xian Bailing felt extremely humiliated. As she screamed, she also realized that something was wrong here. Soon, she even saw the 4 geniuses of the sword sect. F*ck Jian Jingshan, who was always calm, was shocked. He was completely petrified. How could he not know who Xian Bailing was? Wasn't she the proud daughter of the Xian people? How could she be a prisoner now? This gave Jian Jingshan a headache. Jian Xiuxiu was also dumbfounded. Cold air rushed up from the bottom of her feet, making her feel cold all over. Who was this person? He actually suppressed the Xian people's Xian Bailing. They were terrified. They didn't know about Xia Kunlun, but the scene in front of them scared them. Xian Bailing, the sword sect's 3rd brother, was shocked and angry. His blood was boiling, and he couldn't wait to save Xian Bailing from the abyss of suffering. At the same time, he was shocked. He recalled Fan Jian's words. This person was related to the young Devil King. No wonder he was so arrogant. He even dared to suppress the daughter of the Xian people, let alone the Xian people. The best sword in the world. Xian Bailing screamed. Her eyes shone as if she had seen her savior. She screamed at Fan Jian, Fan Jian, save me! The Xian people will repay you generously. The sword sect's 3rd brother sighed, and his expression dimmed. As expected, Xian Bailing only had eyes for the top geniuses of the immortal heavenly domain. Although he was high in the sword sect, he was still a virtual immortal expert. Junior brother Jian Xiuxiu patted 3rd brother's shoulder to comforting him. She knew that 3rd brother Dali had pursued Xian, but the result was obvious. You're Xia Kunlun. Fan Jian's eyes widened. It was unknown whether he was excited or shocked. He said excitedly, Good, very good. Ha ha ha, this is really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. Fan Jian, save me. My clan will definitely repay you generously. Xian Bailing screamed, misinterpreting Fan Jian's words. Since he was Xia Kunlun, it wouldn't be difficult for him to find the young Devil King for a duel. Fan Jian had never forgotten the young Devil King who had attacked him in the ruins of the Heavenly Court in the Nine Cauldron Continent. What Xia Kunlun? Who are you? Jian Jingshan shouted. You're too daring. You even dared to suppress the Xian people's Xian Bailing. Don't you know who she is? Su Yan ignored Jian Jingshan and smiled at Fan Jian. What do you think of this spoil of war? Let's fight. If I lose, I'll give Xian Bailing to you. You can go to the Xian people and ask for a reward, or you can do something else. I don't care. What? Spoil of war. Su Yan's words almost made Xian Bailing go crazy. She was being used as a spoil of war to fight Fan Jian. This was really insane. I'm very satisfied, Fan Jian said sincerely. The spoil of war is a little hot. It's not that I don't dare to accept it. How about this: if you lose, you set up a trap for me to fight the young Devil King. How about that? Su Yan's eyes were filled with surprise. He didn't dare to think about it. It made sense. The world didn't know that Xia Kunlun and the young Devil King were the same person. Of course, to Fan Jian, he didn't care about beauties or noble ladies of the Xian people. His goal was to fight the young Devil King. Fan Jian, you. Jian Xiuxiu was about to go crazy. Shut up. You can't call me Fan Jian. Fan Jian was annoyed. He pointed at her and said, You're just a prisoner. I have no reason to save you. Saint. The sword sect's third brother was anxious. Shut up, you good-for-nothing. Fan Jian glared at the sword sect's third brother. Although he was arrogant, he knew very well that this was a serious matter. If he wasn't careful, it would bring endless trouble to the sword sect. Listen to me. Jian Xiuxiu was like a big sister, comforting the sword sect's third brother's weak heart. In an instant, a powerful aura spread out in the fourth sword realm. Jian Jingshan and the others retreated, giving them enough space to fight. But before they could take more than a few steps, the aura of the two experts had already poured out. Boom! In the world of the sword realm, two storms of wind blew, darkening the sky and causing time and space to tremble. It was extremely difficult to withstand their eruption, and a great collapse had already begun. Come on! Fan Jian let out a long howl and swooped down. Along the way, the heavens and earth shook. At the instant he arrived in front of Su Yan, his pores spewed out tens of thousands of sword lights. They were resplendent and overbearing as they drowned the world and charged towards Su Yan. Su Yan's aura was getting more and more vast. His entire body was steaming with a vast amount of blood essence, dominating the world. This was a peerlessly powerful aura. The steaming blood essence caused the world to collapse. Even the sword beams that filled the sky exploded. So strong. Jian Xiuxiu was shocked. Su Yan was even stronger than she had imagined. Dense blood essence leaked out, rolling like smoke. It was as if a golden god standing in a mythical kingdom was awakening. Without a doubt, this was definitely a pinnacle battle. Fan Jian's aura skyrocketed. He was originally a warmonger, and now that he had encountered a peerlessly powerful enemy, his essence, qi, and spirit rose to their peak state. Tens of thousands of sword beams wreaked havoc in his body, incomparably sharp. Boom! They fought together and collided repeatedly, causing the entire small world to tremble. The strength between them was too shocking. After countless collisions, this small world finally collapsed. So strong. Jian Jingshan lost his composure. Just what was this person's background? In this short exchange, everyone could see how terrifying Su Yan was. His blood essence was golden, and his precious body was tough. Kill! The two pinnacle experts roared. They could see how strong the other was. Fan Jian completely erupted. His body was like a heavenly sword, flowing with a deterrent force that could cut through billions of stars. What? The saint has activated the heavenly sword physique. The reason why Fan Jian had his current achievements was because he had the same physique as the founder of the sword sect. Innate sword physique. This was the supreme potential to become a peerless sword immortal. Now that Fan Jian had activated the heavenly sword physique, the entire world would be filled with images of billions of killing swords. This was a power that could cut through everything, a state of extreme brutality. That person, the moment he collided with Su Yan's aura was terrifying. Sometimes it was like an indestructible body, sometimes it was like a 6-foot golden body, sometimes it was like a 5-colored precious body, and sometimes it was like he was about to evolve 3 heads and 6 arms. The collision of the supreme precious bodies was very sudden. At the same speed they collided together, causing heaven and earth to tremble. It was as if a huge drum was rumbling, emitting a deafening sound. The bodies of the two experts trembled at the same time, and blood sprayed out from each other's bodies. Fan Jian was sent flying. He retreated dozens of steps, and blood rolled out from his throat. However, he was shouting like a madman, satisfying, too satisfying, ha ha ha, too satisfying. Although Su Yan was standing still, there were bloodstains on his body. The heavenly sword physique's offensive power was peerless. In the previous instant of collision, Su Yan was injured. Come and fight. Su Yan also laughed. His long black hair fluttered in the wind. His aura swallowed the starry sky, and his cold eyes burned with the flames of battle. Come! Fan Jian roared. His body flowed with the power of the heavenly sword, and he attacked Su Yan. The entire fourth paradise was affected by the storm of their battle. It was difficult for the 3 geniuses of the sword sect to gain a foothold. In short, their battle was extremely shocking. They used killing techniques at every turn, and they violently attacked each other, stirring up a turbulent storm. How can he be so strong? The sword sect's third brother was shocked. He said, Eldest senior brother, if you were to fight with Fan Jian in this state, how long could you last? Jian Jingshan's face darkened, but he still said in a low voice, in the heavenly sword physique state, I can fight with him for hundreds of rounds with all my strength. However, this battle is different. The Saint's son is fighting with all his strength, and every move is at its peak. However, that person can receive all of them, and even has the upper hand. He is definitely a supreme precious body, and his combat power is extraordinary. He cannot be underestimated. Brother Saint's son has a killing technique. He will not be defeated. Although Jian Xiuxiu was shocked by Su Yan's combat power, he was the #1 genius of the sword sect. Once he used his strongest secret technique, he would be able to defeat all the geniuses in the world. This was Jian Xiuxiu's unwavering affirmation of Fan Jian. This battle between the legendary experts was extremely intense, and the battle situation was becoming more and more shocking. If it was not in the Four Saints' sword domain, but in the Sword Tomb world, this battle would most likely shock the world. What scripture is this? It can suppress my Tao. The battle continued for hundreds of rounds, and it was difficult to determine the victor. Su Yan circulated the origin scripture. His body was like the breathing of the vast universe, and it emitted a majestic fluctuation of all things returning to the beginning. It covered the sky and covered the earth as it charged at Fan Jian. Facing this supreme suppression, Fan Jian was shocked. He felt that he was being suppressed, and his combat power was greatly reduced. Su Yan was already strong enough. Fighting with him was like facing an abyss, and it was difficult to find his weakness. Similarly, Fan Jian was also very decisive. He revived the sword sect's hegemon sword scripture, and it caused his aura to become violent. His body was like a blade, and he was filled with boundless dominance. Come at me! Su Yan's eyes opened wide. His aura surged like a bull, and his fists penetrated the heavens and the earth as he attacked forward. The origin scripture's suppression had lost its effect. Fan Jian's hegemon sword scripture combined with the heavenly sword physique was peerlessly powerful. His entire body was like a heavenly sword that split open the heavens, and he blossomed with boundless sword radiance, enriching his domineering spirit. However, Su Yan's fists were ferocious, and they carried the aura of suppressing kings. He was about to transform into a human emperor who ruled over the world, and he was invincible. "Kill!" he roared. His long hair draped over his shoulders, and his majestic appearance was awe-inspiring. He raised his fists and punched forward, suppressing the world. Chapter 1502. Su Yan's punch was domineering and invincible. It was filled with an unstoppable divine might as he raised his fist and attacked. Everything became blurry. Only a pair of fists remained. It was like an invincible fist that dominated the world. It created a storm and released an invincible aura. What a terrifying prodigy! The sword sect's third brother was convinced. Based on his aura and spirit, he would definitely be one of the strongest on the emperor rankings. Brother Saint has met his match. Jian Xiuxiu clenched her fist. She could feel Su Yan's essence, qi, and spirit. It was wild and invincible, emitting an incomparable divine might. He was definitely a shocking prodigy, and definitely not a nobody. After all, Fan Jian's combat experience was too rich. He had experienced no less than 10,000 battles in close to 10 years. He used to swing his sword 100,000 times a day in the sword sect. For Fan Jian to have his current achievements, he had sacrificed a lot. Outsiders only knew of his glory, but not the hardships he had gone through when he was young. All of this, Jian Xiuxiu saw it all. When she was young, she saw Fan Jian as a role model. She always thought that he would be invincible in the future and kill all enemies. But now, Fan Jian's opponent was also someone who had killed his way out of a bloody storm. The two invincible existences clashed, erupting with blazing light that swept out in all directions, causing a huge shock. There was a terrifying collision, and blood splattered. Fan Jian's entire body trembled. He was about to degenerate from the heavenly sword body state. Similarly, a sword wound appeared on Su Yan's arm. But in terms of injuries, Fan Jian's injuries were more serious. "Kill!" Fan Jian roared. The more he fought, the stronger he became. His fighting spirit was high. The pressure he encountered caused his essence, qi, and spirit to surge. His body seemed to have turned into a heavenly sword as he attacked Su Yan crazily. Every move contained many changes and profound meanings. They covered the sky and covered the earth as they attacked Su Yan. "Roar!" Su Yan let out a clear roar. Sound waves rolled out from his mouth and nose, tearing everything apart. His roar caused the universe to tremble, forcefully creating a zone of nothingness. He was wild and domineering. He rushed over and waved his fist. Punch after punch, he suppressed Fan Jian. Boom, 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 the world of the fourth sword domain rumbled fiercely, and loud noises echoed throughout the sky. The battle reached its climax. Su Yan's fists drew blood. His fleshly body blazed with boundless brilliance, pushing his body to its peak. How valiant was he! In his peak state, he went berserk and threw hundreds of punches at Fan Jian. "How hard are you?" Fan Jian let out a low roar. His violent strength was also extremely astonishing. The heavenly sword physique was pushed to the extreme by him and even showed signs of collapsing. He also used his strongest combat prowess to resist, but the boundless pressure pressed down on him, suppressing Fan Jian's fleshly body to the point where it felt like it was bearing the weight of the heavens. Blood kept flowing out from the corner of his mouth. His chest heaved up and down violently. He was about to fly out. A terrifying aura pressed down on Fan Jian. He could be sent flying at any moment. His movements were somewhat sluggish, and in the end, he opened his sword-like eyes. Along with the blossoming of a terrifying soul light, his perception skyrocketed by a large margin. Then, he continuously waved his sword and palm, shattering the storm of fist auras that filled the sky. Then, he charged towards Su Yan. "It's getting more and more dangerous." Jian Jingshan was alarmed. Fan Jian had used all the techniques he could. In the end, the collision formed was soul-stirring. The area where they clashed formed a huge energy vortex, and the two figures appeared somewhat blurry. The billowing energy storm wreaked havoc, and the aura that made people tremble filled the air. This battle was extremely dangerous. If one was careless, they would be obliterated by the opponent. They had never thought that the two peak powerhouses would fight to such a degree. This is bad. They are tangled together. It's difficult to determine the victor. Senior sister, did you notice that they almost didn't use any divine abilities or secret techniques? It's completely a battle of the most fundamental combat prowess of the human body. This is a contest. It's not a battle of life and death. Both sides want to use their own strength to suppress the opponent. This is a perfect victory. Hearing this, Jian Jingshan whispered, "It's good to watch. They both have supreme treasured bodies. The battle of the most fundamental of their fleshly bodies is definitely the embodiment of great divine abilities. I think this battle most likely won't end in a short time." The battle was still going on. They had entered into a stalemate. Time passed bit by bit. The two powerhouses were greatly exhausted, and their auras were somewhat declining. With the degree of their foundation, it meant that there was a big problem. Boom. In the end, the two figures at the center of the storm trembled violently and flew out. They stood tall in the fourth paradise. The two powerhouses did not say a word. Their throughput was astonishing. They were stealing the energy of the fourth paradise to replenish their bodies' losses. They still want to fight. Let's go out first. Jian Jingshan and the others could not hold on any longer. The soul intimidation of the fourth paradise was too strong. They could not stay here for too long, or else their primordial spirits would be damaged. The two powerhouses were still facing each other from afar. The Sword Sect's third brother went down the mountain to report. The Sword Sect's elders who were anxiously waiting all changed their expressions in disbelief. Fan Jian had encountered a powerful enemy. They were fighting a bloody battle in the fourth paradise, and it was difficult to determine the victor. "Elder, that person is Xia Kunlun." The Sword Sect's third brother's words caused the group of Sword Sect's true immortals' expressions to change greatly. Why did this demon come here? Keep this a secret. One of the Sword Sect's elders whispered, "Don't leak this out. This matter is only between us. Don't spread it out." That's right. Right now, the Xian people are looking for Xia Kunlun all over the world. However, the Flame Emperor's bloodline is not to be trifled with. There are even a few super-wanted criminals who are related to the Celestial Court. Our clan has no reason to become enemies with the Celestial Court. Of course not. An elder with a powerful sword intent said righteously, "Back in the day, our Sword Sect's founder obtained a great opportunity in the Emperor Road. If the Celestial Court was not at its peak and gave everyone a fair competition, it would be difficult for our founder to live long enough to establish the Sword Sect. Even though we can't help the Heavenly Court, the members of my Sword Sect can't do something like hitting someone when they're down. No one would forget that the Emperor Road was created by the Celestial Emperor of the Celestial Court." The group of Sword Sect's true immortals looked solemn. Their founder was now very powerful. However, back then, he was still a young man like Fan Jian. He returned with the Sky Hegemon's sword and the supreme inheritance. The Celestial Court did not make things difficult for him. Back then, some big shots from the Celestial Court wanted to take him in as a disciple. However, the Sword Sect's founder rejected them. He had his own ambitions. If it were now, he would have been killed long ago. The Celestial Court, the true immortals sighed. They were inexplicably looking forward to it. Was there still hope for this once glorious faction to have a successor who could defy the natural order and rise up? In the Fourth Sword Realm, the great battle began again. The two pinnacle powerhouses recovered and started a new level of battle. The entire Heavenly Sword Realm was filled with monstrous battle intent. The two powerhouses fought until the sky darkened. The battle was getting more and more spectacular. It's already the second day and they're still fighting. How long are they going to fight? Although it's not a battle of life and death, their battle is extremely dangerous. If anything happens, they'll lose their lives. It's just a fair battle. Fan Jian hasn't used his ultimate move. Even if he really kills Xia Kunlun, the Celestial Court won't be able to say anything. The entire sword sect was uneasy. The battle had been going on for 2 days and 2 nights, and there was still no sign of it ending. What made Jian Xiuxiu's hair stand was that she realized that Su Yan was stronger than before. This guy did not seem to have reached the immortal limit. However, even if he could strengthen himself again, there was a limit to it. It was the 3rd day. They were still fighting to the death and were locked in a stalemate. However, Jian Jingshan felt that the outcome of this battle was likely to be decided. The two powerhouses had a good understanding of each other's moves and energy. There was no need for them to continue fighting. Come on! The Heavenly Sword Realm's battle intent surged. Billions of sword rays appeared. Fan Jian's aura surged. The Overlord sword scripture activated, causing his heavenly sword body to shine brilliantly. Boom! Su Yan stepped into the sky. His golden chi and blood surged. His cold eyes were blazing. His tall and straight body was domineering. The moment his aura rumbled, the initial scripture erupted. At this moment, Su Yan was at his peak. The strength of his hands suddenly struck out. During the process, his aura became more majestic. It was like a golden universe was blooming. It suppressed billions of sword embryos. Even the heavenly sword body in the core was suppressed to the point of dimming. Overlord sword scripture, I'm invincible. Fan Jian roared. He used his strongest attack and clashed with Su Yan. It was a soul-stirring scene. The entire heavenly sword realm exploded. Everything turned blurry. Someone saw a rain of blood splattering. Fan Jian's hair was disheveled. His entire arm was covered in blood. His bones could be seen. He was almost blown apart by Su Yan. However, at the same time, Su Yan's fist was cracked open. There was a sword wound that went deep into the bone. Holy Sun! The 3 geniuses of the sword sect were shocked. The Holy Sun was defeated. His injuries were extremely severe. His arm was crippled and he could not lift it. The atmosphere between heaven and earth was extremely oppressive. Su Yan was still standing tall like a war immortal bathed in blood. Is this the initial scripture? Fan Jian was not discouraged. He was shocked. At the same time, he knew that even if Su Yan did not have the initial scripture, it would be very difficult for him to suppress her. However, it would also be very difficult for Su Yan to kill Fan Jian. That's right. However, it's not the strongest divine ability in history. Su Yan nodded. However, his words made Jian Jingshan's hair stand. Could it be that this guy had the strongest divine ability in history? Ha ha. Fan Jian looked up and laughed. My sword sect has been established for thousands of years. We also have shocking divine abilities. Let's begin now. Let me experience the power of the greatest divine ability in history. Holy Sun! The 3 geniuses of the sword sect were shocked. Fan Jian had indeed mastered a powerful divine ability. However, once he used it, he would suffer a great loss. However, Fan Jian had no choice but to erupt now. He pulled out the thick killing sword on his back. His entire body seemed to have merged with the killing sword as he unleashed his strongest technique. In an instant, the heavenly abode world seemed to no longer exist. Only the sword embryo was left. Crushed the small world. The sword edge that flowed out was domineering. It was enough to crush the stars in the sky. Kill! Fan Jian roared. He released the heavenly dominating sword art. It shook heaven and earth, and was about to shatter the reincarnation Great Tao. It was extremely terrifying. As you wish. Let's decide the victor with the sword. Suddenly, the majestic figure in front of them disappeared. It was replaced by a golden sword embryo. The moment the sword edge was exposed, the heaven-punishing aura that could slash apart the immortal Tao surged out. This was an aura that could slash apart all the immortals in the world. Heaven and earth were trembling. The three geniuses of the sword sect were petrified. In the entire heavenly abode world, the two killing swords faced each other from afar. Both of them were in a state of turbulence. When they were about to collide. Chapter 1503. The battle lasted for close to 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, it reached the point where victory and defeat were decided. Once they used their life-risking trump cards, it wouldn't be as simple as deciding victory and defeat. It would decide life and death. Boom! Fan Jian's body merged with the Sky Hegemon sword imitation, turning into a sword embryo. It was extremely sharp and flowed with a destructive aura. It slashed towards Su Yan. Everything dimmed, losing its brilliance. The powerful Su Yan, with his peerless flesh shell, was about to collapse, explode, and be destroyed in a single day. This was the Sky Hegemon art, terrifying and world-shocking. The strongest divine ability in history couldn't include all the ultimate arts in the world. Some inheritances weren't inferior to the strongest in history. Now that the Sky Hegemon sword was released, it was enough to destroy the bodies of experts of the same generation, forming a supreme suppression. Clang! Clang! Su Yan's killing sword also came out. Immortal slaying sword bloomed, flowing with an aura that could kill all immortals in the world. It released a heaven-destroying aura that could slaughter all immortals in the path of immortality. It was also as if a forbidden ultimate art was erupting. All matter was peeled off by immortal slaying sword. This sword was resplendent and peerless, and a tragic aura also surged out. The three geniuses of sword sect trembled. Their bodies felt cold, feeling that they were about to be destroyed. Their bodies were about to break apart and their primordial spirits were about to be destroyed. In short, they were about to die. This was a great fear that enveloped them, wanting to destroy them. Stop it! Stop it! Jian Jingshan roared. His eyes red and he lost control of his emotions. Once they attacked, it was very likely that they would be destroyed together. Who would be able to survive? The sword intent that bloomed between them was too shocking, containing a peerless sharpness that could cut through everything. It was also at this moment that the entire world seemed to have calmed down. The moment the two killing swords were about to slash together, a trace of fear rose in Fan Jian's heart. He was facing life and death, facing despair. He felt that his soul was about to be extinguished, about to evaporate, about to die. In the battlefield, no matter how strong the Sky Hegemon sword was, it couldn't come out and help him resolve the crisis. At this moment, Fan Jian experienced death. It was so close, about to devour his life. The aura that could even destroy the heavens was too terrifying, enough to bury everything. Once one was struck, it was impossible to survive. Are you scared? Fan Jian's spirit was about to sink. His entire being seemed to have dimmed and lost his edge. Wake up! The shout resounded through the air. This was a Tao shout that shook Fan Jian awake. In the blink of an eye, he roared as well. His eyes turned vertical. The sword will that was on the verge of shattering was reconstructed. His entire being was blazing with boundless brilliance. His essence, qi, and spirit were even more terrifying than before. He exuded a supreme will to advance courageously. Come on! Fan Jian's sword could destroy the heavens and earth. Su Yan's sword could destroy the heavens. The two great sword embryos, separated by time and space, the instant they were about to clash, they both trembled at the same time, suppressed by a vast and ancient aura, making it difficult for the edges of their swords to continue clashing. Jian Jingshan widened his eyes. He really felt that Fan Jian was dead. He was about to perish. In the end, at the crucial moment, they both stabilized at the same time and didn't erupt into a bloody struggle. This made him gasp for breath fiercely. His entire back was covered in cold sweat. If they really fought together, the consequences would be unimaginable. Pooh! Fan Jian coughed out a mouthful of blood and knelt on one knee. His hair was disheveled and his face was pale. Su Yan's physical body staggered. Although he didn't fall to the ground, the qi and blood in his body were in disarray. His heart trembled. The sky-dominating sword art was truly terrifying. It could break through a supreme treasured body and threaten Su Yan's life. However, it was impossible for Fan Jian to cut him down. Just the one qi into 3 pure ones was enough to protect himself. Even with Su Yan's physical foundation, the sky-dominating sword art might not necessarily be able to destroy Su Yan's vitality. Su Yan's entire body was filled with heart-wrenching pain. This wasn't because he was injured by Fan Jian, but because the sword edge of the immortal slaying sword had too great an impact on Su Yan. This secret technique was truly a self-inflicted injury. He wouldn't use it unless it was absolutely necessary. "I've lost," Fan Jian said and stood up. He was very direct. He had indeed lost. If it wasn't for Su Yan's shout, he would have fallen under the influence of the immortal slaying sword. Perhaps he wouldn't have the time to unleash the sword edge and would have been injured by Su Yan's immortal slaying sword. Of course, these were all unknowns. Who knew how far this battle would have progressed if it wasn't for Su Yan's reminder? Son of God, the 3 geniuses of the sword sect almost went crazy. How could it be considered a loss? The most intense battle hadn't even begun. Once Fan Jian lost, he would become Su Yan's disciple. I didn't win either. Su Yan admired Fan Jian's straightforwardness. From the battle until now, he had a full understanding of this person's character. He said lightly, "Let's call it a draw." "No," Fan Jian said straightforwardly, "you should take me as your disciple." His words caused the 3 geniuses of the sword sect to tremble in anger. However, Jian Xiuxiu and the others didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they heard what he said next. "Teach me your ultimate art. I'll help you develop it," Fan Jian said in a serious tone. His eyes were burning with passion as if he had seen a rare treasure. Su Yan's sword art had left a deep impression in his heart. He would never forget it. If he could master this peerless technique, he would be able to combine it with the heaven-dominating sword art and the immortal slaying sword. He believed that he would be able to reach the top of the monarch ranking. Su Yan said with a dark expression, "Now's not the time to talk about this. There's still a great fortune in the sword domain. It should be the battle between you and me that brought it out." Su Yan was full of anticipation. This was the fortune that he couldn't find. He didn't expect it to be brought out with a special method. It was beyond Su Yan's expectations. No! Jian Jingshan was like a tiger whose tail had been stepped on. He quickly shouted, "This is the fortune of our sword sect. Outsiders, how dare you?" Su Yan looked at Jian Jingshan coldly and shouted, "If you dare to say no, don't even think about leaving. All of you can stay here. You're too arrogant." Jian Jingshan was furious. Could it be that the 4 of them couldn't suppress Xia Kunlun even if they worked together? "Stop talking. Let him go." Fan Jian smiled bitterly. He knew very well that the young Devil King was Xia Kunlun and Xia Kunlun was also the young Devil King. This was definitely the most powerful divine art in history, the Qi Trinity. Once Su Yan went crazy and unleashed this shocking divine art, who would be able to fight against him? Even if the 4 of them worked together, they might not be able to stop Su Yan. He didn't feel defeated. He felt that he had lost to Su Yan because of his secret art. At the same time, he had a deep fear of Su Yan. Where did this guy come from? The young Devil King and Xia Kunlun were definitely not his true identity. He must be hiding another identity. All in all, Su Yan was as mysterious as an abyss. Fan Jian's heart palpitated. This person had too many trump cards. If they continued fighting, they would definitely lose miserably. The reason why Su Yan fought with him for 3 days and 3 nights was to train himself. In the future, he would have to face many situations. He might even have to face existences stronger than Fan Jian. He had to make himself stronger. At this moment, Su Yan's eyes were fixed on the mysterious passage that appeared in the fourth paradise. The ancient passage was filled with the aura of great destruction. It affected one's mind, and it was hard to see anything on the surface. What does this place have to do with the mysterious skeleton? Su Yan thought to himself. The 4 legacy spaces in his primordial spirit couldn't withstand it and were about to fly out. This meant that the sword catacomb ruins must be closely related to the mysterious skeleton. It might even be related to the heaven-destroying sword Dao. Whoosh! In an instant, Su Yan rushed into the passage. Quick, let's go. Jian Jingshan was anxious. Fan Jian couldn't wait either. There was another passage in the 4 sacred sword domain? There were no records of this in the sword sect. This meant that the sword sect's founder might not have known that there was a hidden legacy space here. This made Fan Jian overjoyed. After all, he had obtained the true inheritance of the heavenly hegemon sword. Perhaps he could really obtain a heaven-defying opportunity. At the thought of this, Fan Jian let out an excited laugh. It was a little wretched and made people shudder, however, the moment the experts of the 4 sword sect rushed in. It was as if they had barged into the purgatory of gods and devils. Jian Xiuxiu was terrified. She felt like she was being dismembered. It was a horrible sight. Her entire body was about to explode. What's this? Jian Jingshan's scalp went numb. In the purgatory world, he felt like he was dying. Even his soul was about to be extinguished. In fact, they couldn't even see or hear anything during the entire process. Everything was blurry. Only the powerful sword radiance was slashing at the flesh, the primordial spirit, life, and memories. They were about to lose everything. They were going to be robbed of everything. Puff, puff, puff. The 3 great disciples of the sword sect were sent flying in unison. They spat out mouthfuls of blood. There was still fear in their eyes. They couldn't regain their senses for a long time. After half an incense stick's time, they gradually regained their spirit. They were silent, dazed, and finally sighed. We're too weak. We can't enter the creation space at all. The 3 of them were utterly disappointed. The great creation was right in front of them, but they couldn't get anything. They didn't even have the right to enter the door. Fortunately, the saint went in. Otherwise, this creation would have been snatched away by Xia Kunlun. Just as the sword sect's 3rd disciple finished speaking, a figure flew out of the mysterious space. Accompanied by a scream, he fell to the ground. He struggled violently and quickly got up. Saint! The expressions of the 3 great geniuses of the sword sect changed drastically. Fan Jian was also sent out. F***ck, we're in big trouble. Fan Jian wanted to cry. The 4 great geniuses of the sword sect couldn't compare to Xia Kunlun. All of them were sent out. Could it be that they couldn't get the inheritance inside? Were they going to be intercepted by Su Yan? Xia Kunlun. After waiting for a while, Fan Jian shouted anxiously, Big brother, we can't be so rude. This is the sword sect's land of creation. You can't take it all for yourself. If the old monsters of my clan find out, they might pull out your tendons and skin you alive. Jian Jingshan and the others were extremely anxious. They wanted to inform the sword sect's true immortals. However, their faces turned green. There were many sword sect's true immortals gathered here, but the 4 saints' sword realm didn't have the right to enter, let alone take away the creation inside. Big brother, did you hear that? The old man from the sword sect will kill me. Give me a way out. Fan Jian kept shouting and begging. He sounded as miserable as he could. He wailed and howled for a long time. His throat was almost smoking and his voice was hoarse. He was just short of crying for his parents. The 3 great geniuses of the sword sect had dark expressions. They wanted to say, Can you not be like this? No matter what, you're the sword sect's saint. Can you pay more attention to your image? However, They did not expect that Su Yan's figure would appear in the mysterious tunnel. He waved at Fan Jian helplessly. "Stop shouting. My ears are about to explode. Come in. I'll take you flying. Big brother, haha. Big brother, take me flying." Fan Jian shouted excitedly and rushed in impatiently. "Big brother, I want to go too. Big brother, bring me along. I want to go in and take a look as well. I'll be your assistant." Jian Jingshan and the others could no longer hold it in. They couldn't care less about their image. They shouted at the inheritance space, hoping that Su Yan would bring them in. Chapter 1504. Arriving at the mysterious space again, Fan Jian was still in unbearable pain. The entire space was huge, and it was as though a destructive universe was rotating, wanting to bury Fan Jian's life force completely. It was difficult to survive in an ancient world for long periods of time. Even someone as strong as Su Yan couldn't stay in this world for long periods of time. This is a safe place? Fan Jian was surprised when he realized that Su Yan had thrown him into a space-time node. The influence of this world had disappeared, but he could still feel that once he broke out, he would definitely be subjected to inhumane torture. "Big brother, what are you doing?" Fan Jian saw that Su Yan had gone to another space-time node, and he asked in surprise, "Is there some kind of fortune here? Why can't I see it at all?" Su Yan seemed to be very silent as he stood on the space-time node. Scenes of mountains of corpses and seas of blood appeared in his eyes, inch by inch, accompanied by endless sword scars. This corner of the world was like billions of sword scars arranged in a row, and the scene was ever-changing. It was constantly eroding Su Yan's mind, causing his body to tremble slightly. Sword formation diagram? Following Su Yan's eyes, Fan Jian was shocked. This was a huge sword formation diagram. He actually didn't feel anything, which meant that the sword formation diagram was in a static state. This made Fan Jian's heart tremble. How strong was this killing formation world? Even in a static state, it had almost tortured them to death. Big Brother is indeed Big Brother, and he's also a grandmaster of strange arts. Fan Jian's face was full of envy. How could he not know that the young Devil King had rebuilt the broken structure of the ancient Celestial Court in the ruins of the Celestial Court? He had killed hundreds of Xian people's top experts, and even the true immortals of the Great Firmament had been sacrificed alive by him. In the end, the supreme leader of the Xian people had taken action, suppressing the structure of the Celestial Court. After that battle, the young Devil King's name spread far and wide, and countless geniuses were convinced. After all, he was only an immortal, yet he had done such a world-shaking thing. Even Fan Jian was convinced. Now that he saw Su Yan concentrating on studying the sword formation diagram, he stopped talking and waited patiently. What a terrifying sword formation diagram! Even with the support of the heaven-opening brush, it's 10,000 times more difficult for me to decipher the mysteries of the circulation of the sword mark. What kind of sword formation diagram is this? The more Su Yan looked at it, the more shocked he became. The area covered by the entire sword array was extremely vast. He estimated that with his current cultivation, it would take him at least 10,000 years to completely grasp the profound meaning behind the operation of the entire sword array. Who could afford to wait? Even if the mysterious Sky Sect's old ancestor came, he might not be able to break the sword formation. To decipher the sword formation, the most important thing was to be proficient in the way of the heaven-destroying sword. Previously, Su Yan had tried to decipher the formation using the mystical gate secret technique, but he had failed. He could not see through any ultimacy. This meant that this sword formation diagram was so heaven-defying that it did not belong to the ranks of mystical sects. Only when he combined it with the heaven-destroying sword Dao would he be qualified to decipher it. It was difficult to estimate how long the ancient sword diagram had existed. There were a total of 4 safe zones, which could also be called the 4 great formation cores. However, the 4 great formation cores were missing formation discs, which meant that the sword formation diagram was not complete. Since it's related to the way of the heaven-destroying sword, I'll call it the heaven-destroying sword formation. Su Yan's gaze scanned the sword formation diagram. He wanted to fully decipher it, but he did not have the time. If Su Yan wanted to activate the sword formation diagram, he might be able to open the treasure space here. This was also the most powerful formation that Su Yan had come into contact with ever since he entered the cultivation world. Su Yan's eyes observed the sword marks around the sword formation diagram inch by inch. In his eyes, it was as if there were billions of blood-red killing swords, filled with the power to kill gods and immortals. After an unknown period of time, Su Yan, who had been silent and motionless, coughed up blood violently. He was dizzy and his primordial spirit was about to collapse. Crack! A sword mark even appeared on the top of his head. It had penetrated his entire body and was about to split him apart. What's going on? Fan Jian's expression changed drastically. What was going on? Su Yan was severely injured and was about to die. He fell into a pool of blood and his aura dimmed. Soon, he lay down and began to sleep. After a day, Su Yan woke up. His tired mind had improved, but his injuries were severe. He was injured by the sword formation diagram. After observing it for a long time, he felt as if he was in a world of billions of killing swords that wanted to tear Su Yan's body apart. Buzz. Su Yan took out the chaos liquid. This was a rare substance that was nurtured by the strongest heavenly tribulation. It had a shocking effect on healing injuries. His bleeding body glowed, and he stole the chaos liquid to heal his injuries quickly. Soon, Su Yan recovered and stood at his peak state. He continued to observe the mysteries of a corner of the sword formation diagram. Fan Jian's eyes widened. He was also a chatterbox, but in this situation, he forced himself to hold back. He was helpless. He could not help and could only wait for Su Yan to finish studying the mysteries of the sword formation diagram. Gradually, Su Yan sank into the depths of the sword formation diagram. He could not extricate himself, as if he were sorting out billions of profound characters. He was sorting out a path that could help him. It's already been half a month. Fan Jian shouldn't have encountered any danger, right? The sword sect experts gathered in the sword tomb were restless. An entire half a month had passed, but there was no news from the mysterious inheritance space. No, Fan Jian's primordial spirit lamp is still lit. He hasn't encountered any danger. I wonder what treasures are hidden in the mysterious tunnel. That Xia Kunlun is too terrifying. Even Fan Jian can't suppress him. Is the celestial court going to rise up? No matter what, Xia Kunlun brought Fan Jian to the mysterious space, and it caused me to feel extremely uneasy. I wonder what exactly is the background of this person called Xia Kunlun. He was actually led by the nose in the territory of my sword sect. The sword tomb world was not peaceful, but it was useless for them to be anxious. No one could enter the mysterious tunnel. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. In this 1.5 months, Su Yan rarely rested. However, he was almost out of chaos liquid. He could only rely on the immortal Dao stone to recover. It's been 2 months. Fan Jian was a little impatient. In these 2 months, they had not communicated at all. However, Fan Jian clearly sensed that Su Yan's aura had become much stronger. He was constantly being baptized by the heaven-vanquishing sword formation, causing Su Yan's soul to strengthen. His body was full and translucent, like a true immortal, powerful and terrifying. What a joke! The heaven-vanquishing sword formation was an unparalleled killing formation. In the process of Su Yan exploring the sword formation diagram, he was constantly being tempered by the powerful sword intent, which imperceptibly increased Su Yan's combat strength. Another month had passed. In this 1 month, Su Yan rarely slept. After a long period of contact with the sword formation diagram, Su Yan was no longer injured. He also understood the sword formation diagram more and more. He could not help but sigh. These 3 months were tough and unbearable. Almost every day, he was exploring the Sword Mountain. Life and death were in an instant. At the same time, Su Yan's gains were great. He had already understood some of the mysteries of the heaven-vanquishing sword formation. This was an unparalleled killing formation formed by the combination of 4 major sword formations. Similarly, each sword formation had the power to destroy the world. If I, Su Yan, master the heaven-vanquishing sword formation, I will have to use it. Even if I master one of them, it will be enough to become an immortal orthodoxy's protective formation. Su Yan was speechless. Another half a month passed. Fan Jian could not help but ask, I say, how much more time do you need? Don't tell me you need to spend a year and a half to decipher the sword formation diagram? The battle for supremacy in the 10,000 tribe battlefield is about to begin. Hearing that, Su Yan frowned and said, if only a year and a half. Given the complexity of this sword formation diagram, it will take at least 10,000 years to decipher it. Fan Jian was dumbfounded. He pointed at Su Yan and roared, 10,000 years? My dear mother, don't tell me you want me to stay here and accompany you for 10,000 years? Don't make a fuss. It will affect my deciphering of the formation. Su Yan looked solemn. He was now inscribing formation marks with the heaven-opening writing brush. This was the strongest treasure of the mystical gate. With the help of the heaven-opening writing brush, Su Yan was confident that he could activate the heaven-vanquishing sword formation. My dear brother, let me out. I promise I won't say a word. Fan Jian almost cried. He did not want to stay here for 10,000 years. Who knew what would happen to the outside world after he went out? Su Yan was silent and did not respond. His mind sank into the secret residence of time and space. His avatar was inscribing the formation diagram. 3 days passed. Su Yan was satisfied. When his essence spirit returned to his body, he felt a chill. Big brother, my dear brother, you can't leave me alone. 10,000 years. I, Fan Jian, will become a progenitor. I can't wait for 10,000 years. Big brother, let me go. Let me go. Big brother. Fan Jian was really driven crazy. He was worried that Su Yan would leave him alone. Stop arguing. Let's break the formation now. Su Yan was helpless. Break the formation? Didn't you say 10,000 years? Fan Jian was driven crazy by Su Yan's torture. He also changed his expression very quickly. He stood up excitedly. There might be opportunities hidden in the area covered by the formation diagram. It's not about breaking the formation. Activate the killing formation. Su Yan rushed to the formation eye where he was and threw out a formation diagram to Fan Jian. He said, listen to my instructions later. Activate the formation diagram. If we work together to activate the sword formation diagram, we might be able to open the land of fortune. This formation diagram, Fan Jian looked at the formation diagram. It was as if he had rushed into a vast battlefield. He saw billions of killing swords unsheathing and wanted to tear his soul apart. This shocked Fan Jian. The concept contained in the light formation diagram was already very impressive. He thought that if he became Su Yan's disciple, there would be too many benefits. He could become a master respected by billions of creatures. This was inscribed with the heaven-opening brush. It would be strange if it didn't subdue this kid. Su Yan's other clone rushed to the second formation eye and took control of the second killing formation diagram. He actually created 4 great formation diagrams in such a short time? Fan Jian was even more shocked. His heart was full of admiration. He was really convinced. However, when he saw a snow-white little beast taking control of the 4th sword formation diagram, Fan Jian's face almost collapsed. He said, Big brother, I also know a clone technique. I think it's better to let me do it. After all, this killing formation is so strong. If we encounter any accident, we might all die here. Roar. These words angered the little white dragon. It let out a violent roar at Fan Jian. It could see Fan Jian's disdain for it. You little thing, are you still not happy? Fan Jian was happy. How strong could a creature that looked like a puppy be? Don't underestimate my junior brother. You might not be able to defeat him, Su Yan said shamelessly. What kind of great existence was a 10 transformations true dragon? It was destined to become a saint in the future. What? I can't defeat a puppy. Fan Jian was angry. He pointed at the little white dragon and said angrily, Bring it on. See how I'll deal with it. Roar. Suddenly, a thunderous roar exploded, accompanied by a huge majestic figure descending into the lower realm. It was like a giant vicious beast that had returned from ancient times. It took heavy steps, its mouth and nose spewing out yin and yang qi. It looked down on the world and glared at Fan Jian with divine might. In these past few months, it drank a bowl of Su Yan's precious blood every day. Its body became stronger and stronger. Once it transformed, its aura was a lot more terrifying than before. The horns on its forehead were thick and solid, and they interweaved with extremely profound patterns. They could easily pierce the heavens. Its figure was tall and mighty. It released waves of threatening sounds towards Fan Jian. Moreover, its large golden claws scratched the ground. It looked like it was going to charge forward and defeat Fan Jian. Chapter 1505. Without a doubt, the Long Daesong's aura was quite abnormal. His figure was also extraordinarily powerful. He looked down at Fan Jian from above. The horns on his forehead glowed, and even the yin-yang diagram sprinkled down, creating an impenetrable divine radiance. This also caused the Long Daesong's aura to be too shocking. It was as if he could swallow the heavens, the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars. He looked down on Fan Jian. Motherf *****. Fan Jian was so angry that he was trembling. However, he was also frightened by the Long Daesong's attitude. What kind of creature was this? Was he really a hollow immortal? Brother, what's your teacher's background? Does he still accept disciples? Fan Jian's expression was extremely abnormal. His heart couldn't take it anymore. What was this? He boasted that he was qualified to be in the top 10 of the monarch ranking. However, after seeing Xia Kunlun and this heaven-defying creature, he felt that his future was bleak. How deep was the young Devil King's water? How many trump cards did he have? Was he a sword cultivator? Was he a supreme treasure body? Was he a battle maniac? Or was he a grandmaster? In short, Fan Jian suffered a great blow. He was convinced of Su Yan's strength, and even worshipped the teacher behind him. What kind of person could nurture existences like the young Devil King and the Long Daesong? Could it be that the ancient celestial court was overseen by a terrorist or an invincible existence? In short, Fan Jian wanted to follow Su Yan to become his teacher immediately. Maybe I'll see him soon, Su Yan muttered in his heart. He was full of expectations as he shouted, "Activate the sword formation. The process will be very dangerous. You must hold on." Su Yan's serious expression made Fan Jian's heart tremble. He didn't ask any more questions. Important matters were more important. "Activate the formation," Su Yan shouted. The 4 sword formations that he had painstakingly researched burst out at the same time. Boom! The 4 great sword diagrams burned as if they had transformed into 4 great sword embryos. Overflowing sword scars filled the air. This was extremely terrifying and intimidating. Fan Jian, who was in control of the sword diagrams, could clearly see how terrifying they were. Once they were brought out, they would definitely be able to slay powerful enemies. The 4 great sword formation diagrams were resplendent and dazzling as they awakened one after another. The sword scars that blossomed swept through the heaven-destroying sword formation that had been dormant for a long time. In this short period of time, the three experts were like statues, as if they were petrified. When the ancient sword diagram awoke from its slumber, the energy fluctuations were too intense. Thick sword rays were released one after another. Hundreds of millions of sword rays were released. Every sword gleam was powerful enough to sever the river of time. How terrifying! Fan Jian trembled. He felt that this was much more terrifying than the sword sect's grand protective formation. After all, the sword sect's grand protective formation had been inscribed by their primogenitor, and it was said that it had taken over 1,000 years to complete. However, the sword formation diagram that had awakened here was terrifying beyond compare. Just how powerful was this formation? Could it be that this was the most powerful killing formation in history? Su Yan's hair stood on end. He felt that if he wasn't standing in the eye of the formation, he would have died instantly. Even a true immortal of the great all-embracing heaven would be no exception. Perhaps this sword formation diagram could kill even a supreme being expert. The ancient sword formation diagram had been dormant for a long time. Finally, it released boundless sword rays. During this process, strange phenomena appeared. Sometimes it was a sea of blood that filled the sky. Sometimes it was a sword that cut through time. Sometimes it was a sea of stars that collapsed. Sometimes it was peerlessly terrifying. Boom! In an instant, the eye of the formation that they were standing on changed. It was as if it had turned into the four great ancient sword embryos, flowing with an extremely powerful aura. It was as if the four great invincible experts were awakening. This kind of aura was extremely difficult for them to bear. Fan Jian even saw the blurry sword embryos. It was as if the sword sect's sky hegemon sword had sunk here. What exactly is this? Fan Jian almost went crazy. What kind of sword formation diagram was this? Could it be that the sky hegemon sword was only one of the immortal swords in the sword formation diagram? Could it be that this sword formation diagram required the four great ultimate treasures to unleash its strongest state? He had never heard of such a terrifying formation. Could there be such a ridiculous formation in the world? Ah! The three great experts let out painful cries at the same time. Su Yan's two incarnations were flickering and were about to be torn apart by the blurry immortal swords above the eye of the formation. Endless time has passed. The four great immortal swords that were inserted into the sword formation diagram in the past have also disappeared for a long time. However, their remnant sharpness is just too incredible. Su Yan cried out in pain. His entire body seemed to be pressed to the ground and slashed with the immortal slaying guillotine. The process was truly excruciating. Even his primordial spirit was about to explode and be destroyed in an instant. Long Daesung also cried out in pain. The blurry immortal sword's edges that were slightly exposed were extremely difficult to bear. His treasured body was about to be cut apart. Big brother, I can't take it anymore. Fan Jian was about to go crazy from the torture. Although he had once merged with the Sky Hegemon Sword's sword intent, once the Sky Hegemon Sword's sharpness was released, who could match it? Who could resist it? Even a golden immortal would most likely be hacked to death. Hold on, the passageway is about to take shape. Su Yan roared. His eyes were wide open. The stronger the sword formation diagram revolved, the more Su Yan felt that the four great sword Tao legacies in his primordial spirit were trembling more and more. Finally, streak after streak of sword radiance erupted from his primordial spirit, extremely blurry and mysterious, not displaying much power. However, when they truly hacked down, everything seemed to vanish, as if the entire space-time, the entire passage of time, the entire epoch disappeared. It was a very frightening scene. The four sword lights slashed on the killing formation diagram, accompanied by a series of earth-shattering sounds, shocking the past and the present, appeared. It was as if the sound transmitted from a distant era was also like the opening of the ancestral court that had been sealed for billions of years. It was a very strange ancient road that extended out. It was steaming with the radiance of time and space, resplendent and overflowing. Su Yen rushed up and stepped onto the road of time and space. "Big brother, take me and fly!" Fan Jian roared excitedly. "Big brother, don't leave me behind. Take me and fly, take me and fly!" Fan Jian was so anxious that he stomped his feet. He was really worried that Su Yen would leave him behind and step onto the road of time and space alone. Just from the power of the unparalleled killing formation, it was enough to deduce what kind of land of fortune was inside. Su Yen had a helpless look on his face. He did not give up on Fan Jian. The inheritance that Fan Jian had obtained was probably greatly related to the mysterious skeleton. Perhaps even the entire sword sect was related to the mysterious skeleton. He directly reached out and grabbed Fan Jian, bringing him to the road of time and space. As for the transformed Long Daesong, he directly transformed. The little white dragon's current state was still very special. Being in this state for a long time would cause it to lose a lot of life force. "Let's go." Su Yen stepped forward and advanced towards the road of time and space. Fan Jian followed closely behind. However, when he took this step, a powerful pressure that originated from the river of time suddenly swept over. Fan Jian was terrified. He felt like he was going to die. In the process, his eyes turned black and he was about to faint. After an unknown amount of time, Fan Jian came back to his senses. He was horrified. How far did they cross just now? Did they cross an era of the universe? If not for the road of time and space isolating the invasion of time, Fan Jian would have died of old age. It was impossible for him to survive. This was the influence of time. At their level, it was impossible for them to resist it. "Big brother, if we really go in, can we still come back alive? Why do I feel that every step we take is crossing an era of the universe? The space-time that we cross is too vast." Hearing this, Su Yen frowned and said, "What are you afraid of? I will bring you flying. Follow me, let's go and harvest the fortune." Fan Jian's face darkened. Su Yen was not afraid because his incarnation was left in the outside world. "Kid, if I really die here, my incarnation will also die instantly," Su Yen said helplessly. "The reason why I brought you in is just in case. After all, you have obtained the inheritance here. If you really encounter a threat, you might be able to survive." "I will listen to you, big brother." Fan Jian chuckled. He was looking forward to this trip more and more. Just like this, the two of them walked step by step toward the end of the space-time tunnel. With every step, they had to rest for half a day. The distance they crossed was too far. Su Yen could not imagine how far they had crossed. It was as if every step was an era. It was as if they were returning to prehistory, returning to an extremely terrifying world. After hundreds of steps, they still did not reach the end. Su Yen felt more and more shocked. How far was this road? They also seemed extremely small on this road. After taking hundreds of steps, they suddenly had an illusion. It was as if they had become ancient people and returned to billions of years ago, before the creation of the world. When they were about to cross to the end, they found that the road ahead was broken. There was a very deep space-time crack, like an abyss of billions of years. "Big brother, the road is broken." Fan Jian's eyes were red. He was unwilling. They had already come here, but the road was broken. Step out? That was really courting death. The broken space-time road ahead was like a universe era buried. Whoever could step out, even the Supreme Grandmasters, would most likely die in old age. Su Yen was also silent. He was also unwilling. After spending so much time, could it be that they could not follow this road to the land of fortune? Could it be that they could only give up and go back the way they came? Suddenly, Su Yan's body was blazing. The Origin Sutra was rotating and chanting on its own. It emitted a grand aura and rushed toward the broken space-time road. Boom! In an instant, a loud sound erupted and a tsunami reached the sky. The broken space-time road burst out a brilliant rain of time. It was as if it had been silent for billions of years. Now, under the guidance of the Origin Sutra, it was shining and shining. It was even smelting and was about to reconstruct a space-time road. How is this possible? Su Yen was shocked. The Origin Sutra was operating? It was triggering some matter and reshaping the broken space-time road? This did not make sense. The mysterious skeleton said that when it existed, the universe did not exist. According to this, the mysterious skeleton originated before the Celestial Court era. But why was the Origin Sutra blooming? Could it be that the Celestial Court once sent a powerhouse here to investigate? Could it be a celestial emperor who once ran through the Emperor's Road? Someone's here. Suddenly, an extremely grand emperor's aura bloomed. It was terrifying beyond compare. A figure appeared just like that, approaching from afar. It was as if it had traversed billions of years and appeared on the broken space-time road in an instant. That person's back was facing Su Yen. There was a big cauldron above his head, sprinkling down the light of eternity. Celestial Emperor! Su Yen cried out involuntarily. He felt that this was the ancient Celestial Court's Celestial Emperor. But in the next moment, Su Yen suddenly felt that this was not the ancient Celestial Court's Celestial Emperor he had met before. It was very likely that this was another Celestial Emperor. This was because this Celestial Emperor's aura was too grand. His majestic appearance alone was enough to support the entire Golden Age, surpassing both ancient and modern times. In fact, the reason why Su Yen was certain that he was the Celestial Emperor was mainly because he caught the aura of the Origin Sutra from this extremely grand figure. But the Origin Sutra he cultivated was full of primordial aura. This sutra seemed to be created by him. Plop! Fan Jian could not control himself and knelt down to worship the Celestial Emperor. There was nothing to be ashamed of. His achievements were too grand and worthy of worship. Roar! A dull thunderous sound exploded. It was as if an explosion had occurred in ancient times. It was transmitted here and shook their souls. Boom! The peerless being came down and crashed into the long river of time. Along the way, the great historical stars were wailing. It came against the long river of time, its aura becoming more and more shocking. In the end, it burst out billions of reincarnation lights, broke through all blockades, and arrived beside the Celestial Emperor. Its aura was different from the Celestial Emperor's. The Celestial Emperor's majestic appearance alone shocked the ancients and dazzled the contemporaries. All rules and order could not be stopped and were all scattered. This pitch-black creature that looked like a large black tiger dominated the world, overlooking the long river of time. It was extremely savage, smashing through everything and slaughtering its way here. It stood beside the Celestial Emperor and let out waves of low roars towards the broken space-time abyss. Chapter 1506. What a shocking scene! The majestic figure of the ancient celestial emperors suppressed the long river of time and stood above eternity, becoming the only one in the world. All matter dimmed. No matter how long time passed, no matter how astonishing the space-time tunnel was, everything fell into eternal silence under the majestic figure of the ancient celestial emperors. It was as if he was the master of the universe, the creator of time and space. Celestial Emperor! Fan Jian prostrated himself in front of this figure and shouted excitedly. Who wouldn't be excited when they saw such an existence? The proud Fan Jian was completely subdued by his majestic figure. Su Yen was overwhelmed with emotions. He didn't expect to see the majestic figure of the Celestial Emperor here. No one knew how many generations of Celestial Emperors there were in the ancient Celestial Court, not even Su Yen. However, Su Yen felt that this person was the strongest in history. He had never shown his true strength, but his aura and majesty alone caused the heaven and earth to fall into a state of eternal silence. The grand Tao prostrated beneath his feet and all matter was suppressed. This was too majestic. It was hard to imagine what domain he was standing in. He didn't have any aura, vicissitudes, or traces. He stood there calmly and looked down on the past, present, and future. If Su Yen didn't master the beginning sutra and vaguely feel the majestic aura in his body, he wouldn't be able to tell that he was the celestial emperor of the celestial court. There was even an invincible creature that followed him to the lower realm. It crashed through the long river of time and rushed here. Even if it was infinitely terrifying and peerless, it was still a little dim in front of the majestic figure of the ancient celestial emperors. Su Yen and Fan Jian trembled. Their bodies and minds were about to collapse. What kind of creature was this? This seemingly ordinary black tiger was like an unrivaled supreme king overlooking the endless river of time. It made the great historical stars wail in grief, as if it was the most powerful expert in all of history. Even after a long time and space-time, its aura still seeped in, making their bodies and minds feel like they were about to be torn apart. It saw us. Fan Jian's scalp was about to explode. It was just an imprint left behind a long time ago, but it was powerful and invincible. Even after a long time, this imprint was watching Su Yen and Fan Jian. It's as if they've seen our arrival since a long time ago. Fan Jian stuttered and his jaw almost fell off. Although the scene was blurry, he realized that the Tiger King was talking as if it was asking them a question. It seems to be. Su Yen felt goosebumps all over his body. A roaring sound faintly resounded in his ears. Words from the distant past swept over like a storm of history, wanting to tell them something. But as these words, as if the cycle of reincarnation was disintegrated, this Tiger King was engulfed by endless heavenly punishment, causing the words it spat out to be completely shattered. No sound could pass through, violating the natural order and was blocked. Roar, the Tiger King roared. It was angry and dissatisfied. It let out a majestic roar towards the heavens and earth. This roar dispersed millions of punishments. It didn't receive any damage. It was furious, but there was nothing it could do. Too much time had passed, and it was difficult to leave anything behind. Everything had been obliterated. Could it be that the invincible king has taken a fancy to my potential and wants to take me as his disciple and pass down his mantle? Fan Jian was very narcissistic. Su Yan's face darkened. He said in a low voice, "Don't talk nonsense. Be careful not to get into trouble." Fan Jian's heart trembled, and he quickly shut up. What they saw now was only a remnant scene. The big black tiger wanted to say something to them, but it didn't say it in the end. The ancient celestial emperors used supreme laws to reconstruct the broken space-time crack. It was as if he was reconstructing broken epoch. It consumed supreme power. Su Yen could see that his figure was a little dim. How much energy did he lose? How much time did he spend? When this path was completely connected, everything they saw was blurry. Su Yen saw that the figures of the Sky Emperor and the big black tiger were slowly disappearing. They only left footprints one after another as they walked towards the distance. "Quick, follow me!" Su Yen shouted. He realized that the path left behind by the ancient celestial emperors was about to disperse. "Big brother, bring me to fly!" Fan Jian was excited. He grabbed Su Yan's arm, afraid that he would lose them. It was as if millions of years had passed. The footprints started to dim and were about to disappear. If they missed it, they would never be able to follow the ancient celestial emperors to his destination. Su Yen followed the path of the Sky Emperor and ascended to godhood step by step. With every step, Su Yan's body was blazing. It let out a Tao cry and auspicious signs. He was about to soar. "Big brother, what kind of opportunity did you get? Why didn't I get anything?" Fan Jian was anxious. He felt that Su Yen had gotten a heaven-defying opportunity. He followed the path of the Sky Emperor and ascended to godhood step by step. After dozens of steps, Su Yan's aura had already become majestic. He was like the master of the universe that dominated the starry sky, emitting an extremely holy light. With every step, Su Yan would stop for a day to digest and comprehend. Until now, his entire body was gushing with holy light and was filled with a primitive atmosphere. He was like a primitive heavenly king that walked out of a primitive world. Fan Jian was shocked. Su Yan's aura was too extraordinary. He felt suffocated. He felt the pressure of a flourishing age that was about to suppress him. How big of an opportunity was this? Every step of the old path left behind by the Heavenly Emperor was imprinted with unparalleled combat strength. It was equivalent to a supreme imprint. Su Yan used the beginning sutra to trigger the imprint and obtained a majestic and grand great Tao. But this Tao was too complicated and too difficult to understand. Su Yan could only obtain a little. After dozens of steps, his gains were not small. His entire body seemed to be constructed from primitive runes and was evolving the universe and the heavens. As a result, Su Yan's aura was magnificent and peerless. He was only an immortal, but his Tao was heaven-defying. Didn't the Tiger King take a fancy to me? Why didn't he leave an imprint? Fan Jian muttered. He opened his eyes wide and looked around, wanting to find the imprint left behind by the Tiger King. But unfortunately, there was no trace left behind. Fan Jian sighed repeatedly. The path of the Sky Emperor had come to an end. Su Yan was silent for 9 days and 9 nights. On this day, his eyes were wide open. His body released an invisible field that swept across the world. It was vast and magnificent. Boom! Su Yan clenched his fist. Heaven and earth trembled as he raised his hands. He felt that he could pierce through the heavens with a wave of his hand and suppress a continent with a raise of his hand. Big brother, what did you get? Fan Jian was terrified. He was suppressed and couldn't resist. What was this? Wasn't this too ridiculous? Su Yan came back to his senses and said, I didn't get anything. Fan Jian's face drooped like a bullied wife. How could he bully people like this? He is invincible just by standing here. Su Yan said again and explained his state. He wasn't as crazy as Fan Jian thought. He was just borrowing the imprint left behind by the Sky Emperor. His Tao was divine. He was also thinking about what he had gained. Then he smiled. He had gained the essence and the origin. He was waiting for the day when he was strong enough to come in contact with the immortal Tao. Then, his gains these days would naturally bloom. This is the beginning sutra. Su Yan murmured. He didn't know why, but this sutra was getting harder and harder to understand. Perhaps it was related to his gains these days. The ancient celestial emperors were too strong. When I step into the immortal Tao and sort out the immortal Tao, I will definitely be able to display the shocking effects of the beginning sutra. When the time comes, my gains here will bloom. Su Yan murmured and looked back. The Sky Emperor's path was still there. Unfortunately, it was useless to Su Yan. He could only walk this path once. Although he could walk it a second time, it was meaningless. He had already absorbed what he could. I don't know. What did the ancient celestial emperors go here for? Su Yan was shocked and whispered, could this Sky Emperor be the Sky Emperor who ran through the Emperor's path? His heart skipped a beat. This had to be traced back too far. He couldn't be the first celestial emperor of the celestial court, right? Perhaps this path is very important. Su Yan's emotions surged. This place was also related to the mysterious skeleton. It contained his orthodoxy and inheritance. Could it be that the celestial court didn't exist when the mysterious skeleton was born? Even the Sky Emperor didn't exist. This was a terrifying clue. Su Yan couldn't wait to find out the truth. This was because it was very important. Perhaps he could find out the origin of the Emperor's path, and even the origin of the mysterious skeleton. There was a period of ancient history that had passed away, but it had some interaction with Su Yan. Let's go. Su Yan continued to walk forward. This path had also come to an end. Fan Jian's breathing was heavy. At the source of the tunnel there was a black ancient path. The two looked at each other. Without much hesitation, they rushed in. However, the moment they entered, Su Yan and Fan Jian trembled. These two powerful life forms were about to collapse and die. 1. Fan Jian's forehead burned brightly. A sword edge burst out, filled with a heaven-splitting aura. It tore apart the billowing darkness and the dark matter that invaded his body. However, no matter how shocking this sword edge was, it couldn't completely tear apart the darkness. The world of darkness once again surged toward them. Billions of black tsunamis rushed toward them, trying to bury them in the darkness. Let's go! Fan Jian roared. This was a great crisis that was about to engulf them. At the critical moment, Su Yan reached out and grabbed Fan Jian's arm. At the same time, he stretched out his other hand. The 9 continents' heaven cauldrons exploded, flowing with a dim light that isolated the darkness. Demonic fog, dark calamity. Su Yan's eyes widened. There was an endless amount of demonic fog here. He was shocked and in disbelief. Could it be that the lost history had been swallowed by the darkness? Could it be that the world billions of years ago had been buried by the demonic fog? Dark calamity. Fan Jian was terrified. How could he not know about the dark calamity that had caused the Xianwang celestial domain to degenerate? However, there was one here. It even formed billions of tsunamis and roared violently. The amount of demonic fog was endless. Once it flowed out, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even the powerful 9 continents' heaven cauldrons couldn't open up a safe space. There was too much dark matter. It was like a black sea was churning. Tsunamis came one after another, enough to destroy everything. Slash of the epoch. Suddenly, Su Yan heard an ancient voice. In this mysterious world, a sword radiance that transcended the past, present, and future suddenly erupted. Billions of rumbling dark calamities were suddenly split apart by the sword radiance, cutting off the epic river. Fan Jian was silent and couldn't say a word. Slash of the epoch was domineering. It shocked the 6 paths of reincarnation, opened up the epoch tunnel, and cut off the flow of dark matter. It's him, it's him. Su Yan was overwhelmed with emotions. It was definitely the mysterious skeleton that had performed the strongest skill of the sky-destroying sword path, slash of the epoch. No matter how strong the enemy was, the slash of the sword separated the epic river. It was truly unparalleled and indescribable. Chapter 1507. Slashing the epoch with a single slash. Separated by 2 banks, they watched the darkness churning. Despite being separated by the river of epochs, they could still sense the horror of the darkness. Once they got close, their bodies and souls would be destroyed. Fan Jian was like a statue. He was thinking if the darkness had entered the Emperor Road through this passage, would the Emperor Road still exist? Or would the undying heavenly domain still exist? Now, the slashing epoch had appeared and split the river of epochs apart, isolating the howling of the demonic fog. Su Yan and Fan Jian stood in a safe world. Separated by the river of epochs, they looked at the majestic scene of another world. At the riverbank, the wind howled and the heavenly wind danced. Darkness billowed. This was the apocalyptic storm of darkness. It drowned the stars in the sky, buried the golden age, and buried a once glorious ancient universe. It looked like they were separated by 2 worlds. Perhaps one day, they would rule the world again and plunge the undying heavenly domain into an era of darkness. Big brother, will they come out again? Fan Jian's tone was low. No one knew how strong the darkness was, but the Xianwang heavenly domain had changed because of it. Everyone knew that the ancestors of the Xian people had joined forces with a few ancestors to destroy the Celestial Quartz branch in the 9 Cauldron continent. However, the people did not forget that the Celestial Court was destroyed because of the darkness. Otherwise, the celestial court would not have been destroyed. Who knows? Su Yen sighed. He knew how terrifying the darkness was. Back then, he almost died in the darkness. He barely survived because he crawled out from hell. Su Yen could not explain what the darkness was. Now that he and Fanjian saw the darkness here, they could not calm down and thought about many things. Could the entire Emperor Road have been invaded by the darkness? Su Yen thought to himself, back then, the ancient celestial emperors penetrated the Emperor Road and rebuilt this broken path. They must have seen the darkness. Could it be that even the powerful ancient celestial emperors could not resolve the darkness? If we were to say that the entire Emperor Road is an ancient universe that was once invaded by darkness, then there should be other areas of Emperor Road that are still plagued by darkness. Could it be that the Emperor Road's environment was preserved because it was sealed and suppressed? Su Yen murmured. Soon after, he laughed. This wasn't something they could worry about. No matter what the darkness calamity was, it wasn't something they could fight against. At this moment, Su Yan's eyes were focused on the world that was isolated by the sword mark. The world was very large. Millions and millions of years had passed, and this place was very desolate. The withered, yellow world was in ruins. There was no energy fluctuation, no natural treasures. It was lifeless, and no clues could be found. Su Yen explored some places, wanting to find treasures. Swish, swish, Fanjian's speed was very fast as he rushed towards a destination. In particular, the sword edge gushing out of his frontal bone was unstable. This was the sword edge of the hegemon sword, and it was the life-saving item that the sword sect's ancestor had sealed in his sea of consciousness. Now, the sword edge was trembling chaotically. This made Fanjian pleasantly surprised. He had arrived at the source of the sound, and within the rubble, he dug out a silver stone tablet. Su Yen was moved. There were some special patterns on the silver stone tablet, and when combined together, they formed a stone carving of a human body. After a long time, there was still sword wool seeping into the stone carving. He had to admit that it was very impressive. What kind of inheritance was this? Su Yen opened his mind and explored the silver stone tablet, but he was comprehending the sword will. Boom! In an instant, Su Yan's entire body trembled, and blood flowed out of his pores. It was as if he had been slashed by millions of killing swords. He couldn't control his body and was about to collapse. So powerful! Su Yen was shocked, and so was Fanjian. The two powerhouses looked at each other, and then the power of their primordial spirits erupted at the same time. They fused together and began to explore the contents of the ancient stone tablet together. This was because the sword will on the stone tablet was already quite blurry, and would disappear at any time. If they had come a few days later, perhaps the shocking inheritance recorded on the stone tablet would disappear forever and be lost forever. Therefore, Su Yen and Fanjian decided to explore it together. The information on the stone tablet was already quite blurry, and they might only be able to see it once. Sword body art. It was an ordinary name, and it didn't sound too imperious. However, as he studied it, he felt that he was comprehending a supreme treasure. Could it be a supreme art in the field of sword Tao? A shocking secret art that had been extinct for millions of years was presented before them. Su Yen was excited as he studied it crazily. He had to seize the opportunity, as the more he studied, the more blurry the words on the stone tablet were. In less than half a day, the patterns on the stone tablet had completely disappeared, and the entire stone tablet had turned into ashes. Su Yen and Fanjian remained silent as they sat with their legs crossed, trying to comprehend the sword body art. During the process, their bodies kept trembling as blood flowed out, and even their bones were broken. The scene was quite frightening. Fanjian of the Sword Sect, a peerless genius who was considered to be one of the strongest contenders on the monarch ranking in the future. However, Even someone as powerful as him who possessed the heavenly sword body was having a hard time comprehending it. During the process, they were swallowing tonics to nourish their bodies. Neither of them could leave, and both of them would try their best to grasp the flawless sword body art. Time passed slowly, and it was unknown how much time had passed. On this day, Fan Jian awakened. He roared towards the sky, and his aura surged. In the state of the heavenly sword body, his sharpness was exceptional, containing the essence, energy, and spirit to cut through everything. Sword body art. He activated this world-shocking great divine ability, and his entire corporeal body blazed with brilliance that overflowed into the heavens. Fan Wanruo had truly turned into an extremely powerful sword core. His corporeal body spat out sword chi, tearing apart the heavens and creating a huge hole. Motherf ****. Fan Jian was unrestrained as he shouted excitedly, Motherf ****, this is too powerful. Ha ha ha, this sword body art is simply tailor-made for me. This is the supreme secret art of sword Dao. I am the sword, and the sword is me. Fan Jian's battle prowess rose sharply, and his gains were too great. He was also bursting with confidence. When he saw Su Yan still in seclusion, he laughed arrogantly. I say, big brother, this sword body art can only be used by the heavenly sword body. Although your supreme treasure body is strong, it's most likely not possible for you to bear the weight of this sword body art. Have you become arrogant? Su Yan opened his eyes and looked at Fan Jian. I can't say that I've become arrogant. Fan Jian scratched his head and then said seriously, I feel that if I challenge you now, my chances of winning are very high. After all, the sword sect's supreme arts are too tyrannical, and their inheritance is the heavenly hegemon sword. But now it's different. With the sword body art, I can continuously use the heavenly hegemon sword arts, and it's enough to make my enemies' faces turn green. After Fan Jian said this proudly, Su Yan suddenly stood up. He stretched out his palm, and a silvery white light shone brilliantly, as if it had turned into an indestructible sword core, and slashed out 1,000,000 zhang long sword energy. Boom! Along the way, heaven and earth were split apart. This sword energy divided heaven and earth, and it was as if it had severed the passage of time. Su Yan was pleasantly surprised. It was very powerful and ridiculous. In the state of the sword body art, his battle prowess rose sharply, and his attack power was peerless. He could easily split the heaven and earth, and it was worthy of being called a supreme sword art inheritance. Because this was a type of auxiliary secret art, even in the immortal heavenly domain, there were very few inheritances that could be compared to it. Fan Jian pointed at Su Yan and stammered, How could you have cultivated the sword body art? What's so difficult about it? Su Yan placed his hands behind his back, and said arrogantly, My master's cultivation is very high. Although he doesn't recognize me as his disciple, it's just a sword body art. It's not difficult for me to learn it. Don't talk nonsense. Fan Jian felt that Su Yan was threatening him. Not recognizing him as his disciple? It's fine if you don't believe me. Su Yan shook his head, and was too lazy to argue with him. I believe you. Fan Jian quickly chased after Su Yan, wanting to know more about his master. Soon, Su Yan told Fan Jian about Fairy Xia, which made Fan Jian doubt his life. Su Yan had already sworn, and it was impossible for him to lie. Why didn't you recommend me to your master? Fan Jian was angry, and he felt that he was the most suitable person to walk the path of the sword. Do I know you that well? Su Yan sneered. Kid, don't think that we're brothers just because I brought you here for a walk. Big brother, my dear big brother, don't treat me like an outsider. Fan Jian's face was full of smiles. His experience in this period of time was enough for him to brag for the rest of his life. He even met the ancient celestial emperors, and he felt that he had lived in vain. Only by following Su Yan could he experience the wonders of life. At this time, Su Yen came to a certain place. He had already explored the entire small world. Only the terrain here was unfathomable to Su Yen. Seeing Su Yan's increasingly serious expression, Fan Jian shut up. Su Yen circled around the terrain, walking around a dozen times. Finally, the sky-opening brush appeared in his palm. "Open for me." Su Yen roared and pointed at the terrain node with the sky-opening brush. It was as if a heavenly sword had been stabbed there, and the terrain collapsed with a rumble. The earth collapsed and rocks rolled. A thick, murderous aura gushed out from the earth's crust. "Big brother, let me do it." Fan Jian took the lead, drew the killing sword on his back, and was about to slash forward. "Get out of the way." Su Yen was shocked and hurriedly pulled him back, afraid that he would act rashly. Boom! In an instant, a murderous aura surged out from the collapsed soil like the sea. Su Yan's body stiffened, and his blood almost stopped flowing. Even his soul was on the verge of being torn apart. This Fan Jian was stunned. He felt a chill from head to toe. He had never encountered such a terrifying killing intent that was enough to extinguish one's soul. Fortunately, their essence spirits were strong enough to withstand it. Huff! Su Yen fiercely blew a breath of air, blowing away the dirt that filled the sky. "It's true." Su Yen saw a blood-colored sword formation diagram and sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, he was extremely excited. The harvest was too great. This was not a weapon, nor was it a secret art. This blood-colored sword formation diagram was definitely the heaven-vanquishing sword formation. "What's this?" Fan Jian moved closer and stared with wide eyes. Then, he felt a piercing pain in his eyes and blood flowed out. Next, it was as if he had fallen into a sea of swords and was undergoing the cruelest tempering of his swordsmanship. Bam! Su Yen sent Fan Jian flying with a slap of his sleeve. Fan Jian fell to the ground and flew far away. He came back to his senses in a daze and recalled the scene from before. Then, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and he was weak. Su Yen shook his head slightly. This sword formation diagram recorded the heaven-vanquishing sword formation. Even a true immortal of the great all-embracing heaven was not qualified to study it. Su Yen placed the sword formation diagram in the 9 continents' heavenly cauldrons. "Big brother, this formation diagram." Fan Jian's eyes were so red that they were about to turn purple. The sword body art was a shocking inheritance, but this sword formation diagram was even more ridiculous than the sword sex mountain protection formation. Su Yan's harvest was shocking. If word got out, the sword sex ancestors would be jealous. "Why? Do you want to take a few more looks?" Su Yen said disdainfully. Fan Jian was not angry. He knew his limits. Even if he was given the diagram, he would not be able to learn the content. After all, this was related to the strongest formation Tao. "It would be great if we could enter this place. I wonder if the darkness has devoured everything. Perhaps there are treasures left behind." At this moment, Fan Jian looked at the other side of space. They had gained so much in this small world. One could imagine that there might be other opportunities hidden in the other side of space. However, Fan Jian knew very well that it was impossible to barge into the isolation of the era / It was a forbidden zone for life. "There's a path to enter." Su Yan's expression was solemn. He could see a path. This path was opened by the ancient celestial emperors. With the Origin Sutra, he could see an extremely massive figure, cutting open a path on the one sword severing the great era layout. This path was already extremely narrow, about to completely disappear. What? The path opened by the ancient celestial emperors. Fan Jian was surprised and delighted. When he saw Su Yen charge into the river of time and space, Fan Jian exclaimed, "Big brother, are you really going to barge in? It's too dangerous in there. This is a darkness calamity. Don't act recklessly. It's definitely very dangerous in there. It's easy to be crushed." "Fan Jian, go ahead. I'm going to walk the rest of the path myself." Before Su Yen could finish, Fan Jian stuck to him like a dog-skin plaster and said, "The great ancient celestial emperors. It's worth it to be able to follow in his footsteps." Chapter 1508. Su Yen wondered if one sword slashing the epoch was the ultimate technique of the heaven-destroying sword doctrine. One sword slashing the immortal path, one sword slashing the immortal path, and there were two other ultimate techniques of the sword doctrine hidden in his sea of consciousness. Su Yen did not have the ability to peek into the profound meaning of the inheritance. Even one sword slashing the immortal path was relatively difficult to perform. Su Yen guessed that one sword slashing the epoch should be the ultimate technique of the heaven-destroying sword doctrine. Could it be that this was the dojo of the mysterious skeleton? Billions of years ago, this place was invaded by the Dark Calamity. The mysterious skeleton used the ultimate technique, one sword slashing the epoch, to split open the river of epochs and isolate the calamity. In the end, the mysterious skeleton was severely injured and drifted into the universe. After a long time, he woke up. One thing could be confirmed. The ancient celestial emperors came after this place was destroyed. Then, was his purpose of coming here to investigate the Dark Calamity? A blurry golden path, formed by the supreme primordial runes, had existed for an unknown period of time. Su Yen followed the path carved by the celestial emperor, crossed the supreme space of one sword slashing the epoch, and drove into the darkness of time and space. It was as if he had returned to prehistory, to a world with a dead civilization. At this moment, Su Yen was finally able to clearly see how frightening this dark calamity was. Even with the path carved by the ancient celestial emperors guarding it, there were rolling waves of darkness surging, bombarding the celestial emperor's path, trying to obliterate and shatter it. The celestial emperor's path had suppressed it for countless years, but the dark calamity still existed, bombarding the celestial emperor's path with a terrifying energy source. How great was the ancient celestial emperors? This path has existed for an unknown period of time, but it still has such a terrifying power. Brother, do you think this path is a path that penetrates the dark calamity or a path that suppresses the dark calamity? With the greatness of the ancient celestial emperors, they must know that the dark calamity is the source of chaos. Maybe they will find a way to suppress it. Perhaps both speculations are correct. Su Yen said in a low voice, "If we follow this path, we don't know where we'll end up. It's a pity that the dark matter below is too dense. We can't see anything at all." Su Yen felt regretful. He tried to use his heaven's eye to observe the scenery below, but he couldn't see anything. The boundless darkness was excessively dense, like a boundless sea of darkness. Su Yen even wondered if this was the Dark Realm Sea. Perhaps there was more than one Dark Realm Sea. It was unknown how far the vast darkness had spread. Su Yen walked on the blurry golden path. His speed wasn't fast, but he could feel that every step he took could cross a vast territory. Vaguely, Su Yen realized that the golden path was somewhat similar to the path to heaven. If that was the case, then perhaps the Emperor Road was really created by the current heavenly emperor. Perhaps the path to heaven was also created by him. Who was he? Was he the founder of the celestial court? Did he still exist? Gradually, the surging darkness began to diminish. Su Yen saw a shocking scene. There was a huge corpse churning in the darkness. It was 100,000 feet long and had no flesh. It was just a powerful skeleton, but the bones were ridiculously hard. It was still intact even now, emitting an innate vicious aura that shook one's soul. "Look, that's a sword bone." Fan Jian also saw the remains. There was only one arm left, but the entire arm was like a snow-white sword embryo. It released terrifying sword light, hacking apart the darkness. It was very shocking. What kind of existence is this? The more Fan Jian thought about it, the more shocked he was, and he said, Our sword sect has records that when one cultivates the Tao of the sword to the extreme, one's bones will transform into sword bones. Every bone is a supreme weapon of slaughter, but even a golden immortal would find it difficult to temper all the bones in his body into sword bones. But this arm is formed from sword bones. It's hard to believe how strong it was when it was alive. Su Yan's heart was heavy. Along the way, they found many skeletons and sword bones. They were extremely powerful when they were alive, but unfortunately, their lives were devoured by the darkness. What is darkness? Is it an invader? Or something else? Su Yan thought to himself. What happened here in the prehistoric era? Was darkness the enemy of life? Did it want to devour the entire world? Without a doubt, the cultivation civilization here was not simple. There were peerless powerhouses who split the river of epoch. This meant that this era in the prehistoric era was extremely prosperous. Then, did it surpass the prosperity of the celestial court 1,000,000 years ago? Gradually, the darkness became less and less. The blurry golden path was about to come to an end. Su Yan's body was tense. They had crossed this ancient world, followed the path opened by the ancient celestial emperors, and arrived at another world. It was very obvious. He and Fan Jian had an illusion that they had crossed a boundless territory and arrived at a brand new world. We left the sword tomb? Su Yan's heart skipped a beat. The darkness had completely disappeared. They had arrived at an extremely mysterious world. Heavy, oppressive, suffocating, and ice-cold. The mysterious ancient world gave Su Yan many different feelings. What was this place? What was the purpose of the ancient celestial emperors coming here? They had followed the footsteps of the ancient celestial emperors and arrived at an unknown world. The ice-cold world, the dilapidated rivers and mountains, emitted a heavy aura. There was even an astonishing metal fluctuation. Fan Jian was shocked to discover that the dilapidated rivers and mountains seemed to be forged from divine iron. There was no life, only a mechanical aura. What is this place? Fan Jian was astonished. The environment of the entire world was incompatible with them. Su Yan and Fan Jian were like people from another world who had arrived at the origin of a mysterious civilization. Su Yan walked on the dilapidated rivers and mountains. The earth was heavy, and it was difficult to move it by relying on the strength of the human body. If they were in the outside world, they could easily move the rivers and mountains. However, it was different here. The heavens and earth were excessively heavy. The boundless world had no end in sight. There were ice-cold metal fluctuations everywhere. It was bone-chilling and made them shudder. Be careful. Su Yan was on full alert. He was worried that they would encounter a great danger. Although they had followed the ancient celestial emperors to this place, how could Su Yan and the rest compare to the celestial emperors? They could only look up. Therefore, if they encountered any danger, it would be a fatal disaster. Gradually, they traveled into the depth. The ancient and mysterious world had very few mountains. In the deep starry sky, there were scattered stars drifting. Su Yan discovered that the scattered stars in the starry sky were as if they were forged from metal. It was quite mysterious. Big brother, I heard that some civilizations are not ordinary. They are different from our cultivation civilization. Do you think we have come into contact with another cultivation civilization? Or perhaps the origin of this extinct civilization has been preserved for hundreds of millions of years. Fan Jian recalled the contents of an ancient text. His emotions surged. Who knew what they would discover if they continued exploring? Su Yan did not deny his guess. He said, "The boundless universe is filled with all sorts of strange things. If it really is another extinct civilization, then that would be incredible. We have been exploring the evolution of life essence, but everything here is metallic. Could there be a metallic life form here? It's hard to imagine what era the Emperor Road existed in. The celestial emperors of the celestial court ran through the Emperor Road and created the strongest trial field. Then, what was the purpose of creating the Emperor Road? Before Fan Jian could finish speaking, Su Yan's heart trembled. At the end of the earth, he saw a figure sitting cross-legged on a cliff. The figure was lonely and seemed very small. There's someone here? Su Yan was shocked. He rushed forward and soon approached the figure. The figure was tall and looked exactly like a human life form. However, its body was blue. It was a blue life form with a tattered body. Even its organs could be seen. It's really a metallic life form. Fan Jian was shocked. A metallic man. Its entire body was forged from mysterious metals. It must have been dead for countless years. It had no aura or energy fluctuations. It was deathly still. It's a puppet. Su Yan was even more shocked. He took out the puppet from the Uncanny Craftsmanship series and discovered that there was a mysterious connection between the two. What? A puppet? Fan Jian was stunned. He shook his head and said, I'm not interested in puppets. Could this place of good fortune be a training ground for puppets? It's not the origin of another cultivation civilization that I guessed it to be? He lost interest and was a little disappointed. Su Yan whispered, Could this be a training ground for puppets of the Uncanny Craftsmanship series? Uncanny Craftsmanship? Fan Jian was startled. Your puppet is a puppet of the Uncanny Craftsmanship series? Could it be that we've arrived at the Uncanny Craftsmanship sect? Su Yan did not know much about this sect. Although Fan Jian's knowledge was limited, he knew that this was one of the strongest places of good fortune in the 10,000 tribes battlefield. Many immortal sects were jealous and fought with each other. They all wanted to dominate this place of good fortune. At present, the Xian people occupied most of the resources in the Uncanny Craftsmanship sect. They might have unearthed some immortal Tao puppet. The ancient celestial emperors also came here for the forging technique? Su Yan's heart raced. If they were really in the Uncanny Craftsmanship sect, then they might have arrived at the core area or even the place of good fortune. Whoosh whoosh. Thinking of this, the two of them frantically crossed into the depths. Su Yan was elated. If he could really obtain the strongest smithing skill, he could also find a way to repair his puppet. Since his big brother called it a puppet that was hard to find in the world, it was hard to imagine how heaven-defying it would be once it was repaired. Along the way, Su Yan found some metal men. Unfortunately, they were of no value. Too much time had passed. Even if the metal life had a long lifespan, it would eventually be destroyed. Gradually, the scenery along the way changed. There were some buildings. They were tall and majestic. It was like the territory of giants. However, these buildings were also badly damaged. Su Yan's sharp senses even caught the aura of darkness. His heart was heavy. If the Uncanny Craftsmanship sect was really destroyed by the darkness, then it meant that this sect had existed for too long and could not be traced back. Big brother, there are living metal men! Fan Jian screamed. He was frightened. Su Yan was also shocked. He saw hundreds of shadows at the end of the horizon. They looked small, but they were quite terrifying. A terrifying metal aura was released, shocking the ancient star sea. It was terrifying beyond compare. This, then, Su Yan trembled. His eyes turned red. Because he saw a living being that was entirely golden. It must be a metal man made of immortal Tao metal. How could it be? Hundreds of metal men made of terrifying precious materials. If this news spread, it would cause a huge uproar. All the immortal sects present. Of course, this was secondary. The hundreds of metal men raised their hands and carried a huge bronze chariot. Inside the chariot sat a woman. She looked like an empress sitting in the chariot. There was an ancient supreme aura that suppressed the depths of their souls. It was terrifying beyond compare. Chapter 1509. The place where the ancient celestial emperors descended, the strange metal world, the most powerful forging techniques. Now, there were hundreds of metal men, a huge bronze chariot, and beautiful women. This series of experiences, when put together, had a huge impact on Fan Jian and Su Yan. Why are you grabbing me? Su Yen was shocked. He realized that Fan Jian was grabbing his arm and his hands were trembling. Does it hurt, big brother? Fan Jian stammered. He stared at the metal men and breathed heavily. His eyes turned red and he was ready to attack. Bullshit. Su Yan's face darkened as he said, "Can you calm down? We're not dreaming, and what we're seeing isn't an illusion. It's real." "It's really not a dream. Then, aren't we rich?" Fan Jian roared. "That is a stone sword embryo. Big brother, do you know what a stone sword embryo is? That is a stone sword embryo. F***CK. Su Yen wanted to slap Fan Jian. He said angrily, "How would I know what a stone sword embryo is? Calm down. Don't embarrass me." A stone sword embryo is the strongest material of the sword path. Fan Jian's eyes turned red. He stared at one of the silver metal men and roared, "Big brother, look at that metal man. It is full of innate sword marks and there is a sword leakage. This is definitely the legendary stone sword embryo." Su Yen also looked at the metallic lifeform that Fan Jian was referring to. That's right, it was indeed powerful and heaven-defying. The sword aura that it emitted could easily split the entire sky and open the ancient star sea. It was quite terrifying. This was a precious treasure that Fan Jian yearned for even in his dreams, and the entire treasure vault of the sword sect was less than 50 kilograms of it. However, all of this was the lifeblood of the sword sect, and Fan Jian didn't dare lay a finger on it because even the ancestor coveted it. It was said that the sword sect's patriarch had spent tens of thousands of years exploring various dangerous places. Finally, he gathered the materials for a stone sword embryo and forged his natal sword embryo. This sword was also reputed to be the second most precious treasure of the sword sect, second only to the sky hegemon sword. But Fan Jian saw a silver metallic man here. Although it was only the size of a fist, it was indeed forged from a stone sword embryo. He estimated that it weighed no less than a few hundred kilograms. This was a terrifying amount of wealth, enough to make the immortal orthodoxies jealous. Over the long years, many experts emerged from the immortal sect orthodoxies. Some of the most powerful treasured materials had been used up, leaving very little, very limited. Look at the other one. At this time, Fan Jian pointed at one of the silver creatures. This creature's aura was comparatively more ridiculous. The radiance it released from its mouth and nose could easily tear apart the heavens and split the seas. Their silver bodies had golden spots, as if suns were embedded on their bodies, filling them with terrifying heavenly might. Great overarching silver essence, a treasure that grand heavenly realm experts yearn for even in their dreams. Fan Jian said with a trembling voice, "But this piece of great luo silver essence gave birth to a golden crystal. This is the highest grade of great luo silver essence, hard to find in the world." "There are many, many more." Fan Jian's lips trembled as he said, "How much wealth is that? Do the Xian people have it? Does the underworld have it? If we pack it all up and take it away, we'll be the richest people. If anyone dares to provoke us, we'll smash them to death with money." Smack. Seeing that this guy was getting more and more ridiculous, Su Yen slapped him across the face. Fan Jian was stunned. He glared at Su Yen with red eyes and growled, "Why did you hit me? Did I hit you?" Su Yen snorted. "You didn't hit me?" Fan Jian's heart thumped as he looked left and right. "Don't be a jerk. Calm down. No matter how much fortune there is, can you get it? Can you live to take it away? If you really get into trouble, no one can save us." Su Yen scolded. He was in charge of the heaven-opening writing brush and the Jiuzhou heavenly cauldron. He had two of the most powerful treasures, so he could still stay calm and not lose his composure. However, even an immortal sect's patriarch would find it hard to sit still after witnessing such a scene. After all, the hundreds of metal men were forged from precious materials that were hard to find in the world. It would be amazing if one could hold on to such a huge fortune in one's hands. Su Yan's words were like a bucket of cold water that poured over Fan Jian. This made Fan Jian feel awkward. He was thinking too much. At this time, Su Yan approached quietly. He warned Fan Jian along the way to not talk nonsense and be careful not to get into trouble. The things they saw were very precious and not something they could easily touch. If they couldn't get it, they couldn't force it. For their realm, some things were too hot for them to enjoy. The hundreds of metal creatures were small in size, only the size of a fist. However, their auras were too terrifying. They flowed with a terrifying light that could easily kill a strong person in the universe. As they approached, Su Yan and Fan Jian trembled. They felt like they were going to explode and be destroyed. How terrifying! How strong are they? Could it be that they are the most powerful puppets of the Uncanny Craftsmanship series? Or could it be that they aren't puppets at all and have their own will? Life forms with their own will. Is this another cultivation civilization? Su Yan muttered in his heart. He even realized that the hundreds of metal creatures had spread their arms and were carrying the huge bronze war chariot. They were moving through the dilapidated mountains and rivers. There was a sorrowful aura leaking out. Why were they sad? Su Yan was shocked. He looked at the metal creatures one after another and found that they didn't have any will fluctuations. They were like a group of dead creatures. How long had they existed? Su Yan looked at the giant bronze chariot. The chariot was somewhat broken and even covered in blood. The whole thing was covered in strange patterns. When one looked at the chariot from a deep level, it was like looking at a great universe. Boom! Su Yan's heart trembled. He saw a supreme woman sitting in the middle of the magnificent universe. The whole universe was beneath her feet. It was as if the whole universe would collapse with a slight tremble from her. Pfft! Su Yan was coughing up blood. He couldn't control it and felt like his body was going to explode. He was horrified. Could this be a monarch? It was a female monarch. She sat in the bronze chariot and flowed with a mysterious luster. Su Yan guessed that she should have fallen. However, even if such a character had fallen, she was still peerless since ancient times. Her aura was grand and magnificent. When one approached her, one could feel the pressure from the long river of time rumbling over. Who is she? Could she be the founder of the Uncanny Craftsmanship sect? Or the creator of this mysterious civilization? Why is there a sacrificial sound on her body? Could she have died long ago? Su Yan murmured. They couldn't get close at all. Even the hundreds of metal creatures were moving the chariot into the distance. What were they going to do? What was the destination? Fan Jian's thoughts were different from Su Yan's. What kind of man was worthy of such a stunning woman? He didn't have any blasphemy toward the Empress. He only felt that perhaps only the ancient celestial emperors were worthy of her. Su Yan and Fan Jian's hearts were heavy. They followed step by step, wanting to see what they were doing. After an unknown amount of time, the scene was still the same. However, the destination had changed. She must have fallen. Su Yan said secretly in his heart. If she was really alive, how could she allow them to follow her like this? This in itself was a kind of disrespect. However, just as Su Yan continued to follow and wanted to understand everything, he found that the space-time in front of him was distorting. Su Yan's body was trembling. The Origin Sutra was blooming, sprinkling down boundless luster that flowed in the distorted space-time. Boom! In an instant, the scene in front of him changed completely. It was as if the universe had been reversed, as if time had been reversed. The ancient light of time sprinkled down, illuminating the universe. The ancient celestial emperors. Su Yan was shocked. He saw the ancient celestial emperors again. We saw the scene from a long time ago. The ancient celestial emperors came. Fan Jian was in a daze as he muttered to himself. Of course, it wasn't strange. After all, they followed the ancient celestial emperors. Su Yan's emotions were surging. With the help of the Origin Sutra, Su Yen saw some of the things that had happened here in the past. But it was different this time. The ancient celestial emperors and the big black tiger were standing together. They were even standing in front of the bronze chariot. He heard sobbing. He heard howls of grief. Hundreds of metal men seemed to have been resurrected. Under the might of the ancient celestial emperors, they cried and shouted, narrating a history of blood and tears. It was as if they were telling the celestial emperor what had happened here in the past. Repeated for a long time, they died in battle and lost their spiritual will. But instinctively they respected their king. Did they bring her to patrol the mountains? Su Yen thought of something. He even realized that the ancient celestial emperors seemed to be paying homage to the celestial empress here. This had a different meaning. It meant that the ancient celestial emperors treated her as one of their own. Vaguely, following the long river of time, Su Yen heard a sigh. It was the celestial emperor's sigh. He was sighing at the woman in the chariot. Boom! At this time, across the river of time, Su Yen saw a silver paper fly out of the bronze chariot and give it to the ancient celestial emperors. Fan Jian's eyes widened. What kind of ancient book was this? Was it the most powerful forging technique? Or was it some other inheritance that was given to the celestial emperor? From the next moment, all the scenes disappeared. Su Yen felt like he was in a dream. The metal men carried the bronze chariot and continued to move. They gradually moved away, plop. The next moment, Su Yan's face darkened. He saw Fan Jian kneel down and wail at the chariot. The ancient celestial emperors came here to pay homage to the celestial empress, but Fan Jian was crying at her funeral. But what kind of relative were you? No matter how hard Fan Jian cried, he couldn't get anything. Even the metal men didn't react. Brother, I feel an ancient will scan me. Fan Jian's excited voice came. You're from the celestial court. Maybe you can get something. Fan Jian wouldn't joke about this kind of thing. Su Yen was shocked. He quickly made a decision. He merged the human-shaped puppet into his body and walked toward the bronze chariot. His attitude was sincere and solemn. I'm a rising star of the celestial court. I followed my ancestor and came here by accident. Su Yen organized his words. He wanted to say something touching. However, the next moment an ancient will really descended on Su Yen. Su Yen vaguely felt that this ancient will was exploring his body. Finally, when it touched his primordial spirit, Su Yen was shocked to find that the white mist that had merged with his primordial spirit was about to reappear. His heart was greatly shaken. What exactly was this white mist? She moved. Fan Jian was terrified when he saw the Empress sitting in the war chariot. She stretched out her snow-white hand and grabbed at Su Yen. Su Yen was horrified. The snow-white hand seemed simple and unadorned, but it contained the aura of a law that could destroy the universe. It approached and touched Su Yen. Brother, take me and fly. Fan Jian shouted. He hugged Su Yan's leg with both hands. He wanted to enter the ancient chariot with Su Yen and receive guidance from the Supreme Emperor. Chapter 15:10. Time and space were extinguished, and everything became blurry. Su Yen looked around. It was pitch black everywhere, and he couldn't see anything. Even his powerful spiritual sense had lost its perception, as if it had fallen into a confined space. Heaven and earth were in eternal silence. Everything fell into a still process. Nothing could be seen, nothing could be heard. No one knew how long this lasted. A loud explosion rang out, and heaven and earth collapsed. The large crack was very deep, as if it was tearing Su Yen apart. However, he couldn't feel any pain, nor could he see anything. It was like a dream. When he woke up again, raging flames were burning his body. It was unbearable, and his entire body was about to collapse. It was as if he was imprisoned in the furnace of 8 trigrams. Even someone as powerful as his supreme precious body couldn't withstand it. Su Yen was shocked. What happened? He also encountered something bad. What the hell is this place? Fan Jian cried out. His entire body was spewing flames, and even his hair was burned away. The protective armor he wore was also twisting, and was about to shatter. Su Yen was shocked. He didn't have time to carefully observe his surroundings. He had a premonition that he had fallen into a furnace, and the flames burning in the furnace were very special. Even his primordial spirit was facing a certain degree of threat. The raging flames burned their bodies, and it was extremely difficult to threaten their lives in a short period of time. However, in the next moment a shocking change occurred. The human-shaped puppet that had fused with Su Yen flew out on its own. From this moment onwards, the raging flames in the furnace began to swarm towards Su Yan's puppet. What was going on? Su Yen and Fan Jian's threat was greatly reduced. The peculiar furnace was filled with a blazing aura that could seize the good fortune of heaven and earth. The three-colored true fire burned inside, and it was burning the human-shaped puppet. "It hurts!" A painful sound came, and Su Yen grimaced in pain. He and Fan Jian sat down at the same time. Their bodies were burning, and even their primordial spirits were in pain. Although they were only burned by the raging flames for a short period of time, the flames were too special. It made Su Yan's eyes hurt. "What kind of fire is this?" Su Yen was shocked. They didn't care about the raging flames at all, but now the problem was serious. No matter if it was their bodies, primordial spirits, or mana, they were all burning unbearably. They had suffered serious injuries. Could this be the legendary true Samadhi fire? Fan Jian cried out in shock, as if he had seen a ghost. This is one of the strongest flames in the world. Once burned by the true Samadhi fire, one will slowly die. The process will be extremely painful. Some can't take it and directly commit suicide. True Samadhi fire. Su Yen was moved. He carefully sensed the injuries on his body. There were really 3 types of injuries. His primordial spirit, physical body, and dermic powers were all scorching hot. "Brother, did you offend the Empress? She imprisoned us here to refine us to death." Fan Jian panicked. The true Samadhi fire in the cauldron they were in was too blazing. If a large amount of it fell down, they would definitely die. This was one of the strongest flames, the legendary true Samadhi fire. They had only been burned a little and their injuries were already so serious. One could imagine what would happen if they were to be burned for a long time. Su Yen was silent. He felt that his previous experience was like a strange dream. Now that he had woken up, they were in a cauldron? But the experience just now was too real. They had followed the path opened by the ancient celestial emperors all the way here and finally appeared in a strange cauldron. Now, his human-shaped puppet was being burned by the true Samadhi fire. Su Yen guessed that this cauldron could repair the human-shaped puppet. If the human-shaped puppet can be repaired, it will be a great opportunity. Su Yan's emotions were surging. This was a puppet that was praised by the prehistoric Big Brother. Even if it was restored to the realm of immortals, Su Yen could rely on this puppet to do whatever he wanted in the battlefield. At this moment, Su Yen was paying attention to the world inside the cauldron. The world of the cauldron was huge and mysterious. Flames surged from the ground and wisps of true Samadhi fire could easily burn their treasured bodies. In the blazing heaven and earth cauldron, Su Yen was sweating profusely and his mouth was dry. He really suspected that this was not a cauldron but a heaven and earth fire cauldron. Buzz! When he opened his heaven's eye to look deeper into the cauldron, his heaven's eye was piercing. It reflected the surrounding space and his eyeballs seemed to have fallen into a sea of fire. Almost instantly, Su Yen felt that his eyes were about to shatter. "This is too abnormal." His expression changed. It was difficult to see on a large scale, and he could only observe this strange world with his naked eyes. In the sky, raging flames surged and rolled. It was enough to burn down the universe and melt the stars in the sky. It was too ridiculous. Currently, Su Yan's human-shaped puppet was floating at the mouth of the furnace, enduring the burning flames. It was burned until it was completely red, as though it was about to melt. However, Su Yen vaguely realized that in the process of being burned by the true samadhi fire, the human-shaped puppet was becoming stronger. The entire puppet's metal body began to flash with ancient and mysterious patterns. Su Yen was pleasantly surprised. Then, he heard a ghostly cry. Fan Jian was taking out an immortal cauldron to receive some true samadhi fire. However, the flames were quite shocking and burned the cauldron almost instantly. Abnormal, it's too abnormal. Fan Jian's scalp was shining. He patted his bald head and said regretfully, if only a part of the true samadhi fire could be taken away, it would definitely be a great killing weapon. It could burn a strong enemy to death. Su Yan's heart trembled. Fan Jian's words reminded Su Yan. He originally wanted to use the 9 continents cauldrons to carry it. However, there was a large amount of demonic fog sealed in the cauldrons. This was Su Yan's ultimate trump card. Even perfected immortals avoided it. Su Yan could not bear to throw it away. He scratched his head. How could he release the true samadhi fire? Thinking of this, Su Yan grinned and took out a small blood-colored stone jar. This was the treasure that carried the Emperor's blood. Although he did not know its specific power, since this stone jar could carry the Emperor's blood, it might be able to store the true samadhi fire. Su Yan tried to use a large amount of magic power to activate the blood-colored stone jar. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful his magic power was, it was extremely difficult to activate the stone jar. Su Yan's face darkened. What should he do? Woo-woo! Suddenly the little white dragon cried out. Its voice sounded very anxious. Su Yan hurriedly opened the secret palace of time and space. The little white dragon flew out like a bolt of white lightning. It was as small as a palm, but as strong as a dragon. Originally, it wanted to find a foothold. In the end, the true samadhi fire surged from the ground and caused the little white dragon to gallop in the void. Finally, it stood on Fan Jian's shiny bald head and used it as a foothold. Little thing! Fan Jian screamed. He was so angry that his hair stood on end. What did this little thing think of him as? However, when he thought of the little white dragon's transformation, Fan Jian's heart thumped. He was not afraid of the little white dragon. He still wanted to learn from it. Roar! Little white dragon moved its little claws and rubbed them on Fan Jian's shiny bald head, making ear-piercing sounds. Then, it did something shocking. It swallowed the true samadhi fire that was floating at the mouth of the furnace. Ah, you lunatic! Fan Jian was shocked. Su Yan was also shocked. The true samadhi fire rolled down in a large area. It could definitely burn Fan Jian to death. The temperature of the fire was quite abnormal and unbearable. However, the falling true samadhi fire was swallowed by the little white dragon. A large cloud of green smoke came out of its nostrils. It glanced at the frightened Fan Jian with disdain. It let out a low growl as if to say, "You are too useless." F***ck. Fan Jian was despised. He was going crazy. He was also shocked that the little white dragon could absorb the true samadhi fire. How abnormal was this thing? The next scene made Su Yan's heart skip a beat. Little white dragon swallowed a large amount of true samadhi fire one mouthful after another. Its beast eyes began to flicker with flames. Within its small body, there was a blazing and terrifying fire. Once it was released, it was hard to imagine how strong it would be. Big brother, what kind of creature is it? Fan Jian was even more shocked. He said, "My God, it refined the true samadhi fire into its life flame and stored it in its body. This ability alone is a super trump card." Su Yan was surprised and happy. A 10 transformations true dragon was indeed a 10 transformations true dragon. It could even seize the true samadhi fire and transform it into its own flame. Su Yan even found that the little white dragon's body was becoming more and more familiar. Without a doubt, the true samadhi fire had also become a great tonic, replenishing the little white dragon's body functions. Just like that, A large amount of true samadhi fire was stolen one after another, causing the flames floating at the mouth of the cauldron to decrease greatly. The little white dragon was still absorbing. Was it going to swallow all the true samadhi fire in the cauldron? Boom! Suddenly, the ancient cauldron shook as if it had been revived. It breathed heavily. Woo woo! The little white dragon screamed and ran away. It had encountered a great crisis and hid in Su Yan's sleeve. From this moment on, Su Yan and Fan Jian's expressions were extremely abnormal. The moment the cauldron was revived, it seized the creation of heaven and earth, as if it was extracting the source of the universe and regathering the depleted true samadhi fire. In an instant, the entire cauldron blazed 100 million times brighter, as if it had turned into an unparalleled immortal cauldron that could burn Daluo golden immortals. It rumbled and spilled down like a sea of true samadhi fire. It was accompanied by the light of order and the light of the laws. Su Yan's expression changed drastically. He felt that he was going to be burned to death. Once the cauldron poured out flames, it was enough to burn down the universe and destroy heaven and earth. The powerful Su Yan and Fan Jian were like ants, their bodies trembling. Oh no, we're going to be killed by the long day zone. Big brother, think of something. Fan Jian was flustered and exasperated. The dormant cauldron had been revived and its movements were quite frightening. It was as if an ancient emperor weapon was spinning and spilling down rolling flames. There was no place for them to stand. Su Yan immediately shot out the 9 continents' heavenly cauldron, suppressing him and Fan Jian. He forcibly opened up a small world in the cauldron and isolated the true samadhi fire. Su Yan was shocked. It was definitely because the little white dragon had stolen too much true samadhi fire and unknowingly activated the immortal cauldron. Look, the dormant cauldron of fortune has been opened. Haha, the heavens are really protecting the Xian people. This is the dormant cauldron of fortune of the uncanny craftsmanship sect. Maybe it can be used to forge super puppets. The outside world was in an uproar and heated discussions broke out. A large number of experts from the Xian people rushed over. The crowd was overwhelmed with emotions. After a long time, the cauldron of fortune had been dormant. Unexpectedly, it had opened and started to breathe on its own. They were very excited and rushed over with laughter. Damn, this bunch of dogs. Don't tell me they've encountered a great opportunity? Zhu Xing's eyes were red as he stared at the breathing cauldron. He felt that this cauldron was no small matter. Chapter 1511. The ancient bronze cauldron had been silent here for a long time. Now, the bronze cauldron was emitting a blazing light. Ancient metal characters began to flicker on the cauldron's walls. The densely packed characters seemed to have a life of their own as they flowed on the cauldron's walls, accompanied by an earth-shattering roar. Buzz! The bronze cauldron's divine light shone brightly. As the cauldron's mouth sucked, heaven and earth were melted, turning into a huge black hole. The Xian people near the bronze cauldron trembled in fear and retreated. The temperature inside the cauldron was too high, making it difficult for them to get close. Within the cauldron, the samadhi true fire was surging. The temperature inside was naturally unparalleled. Even a true immortal of the great all-embracing heaven would find it difficult to protect himself here. Of course, this was only secondary. As the bronze cauldron glowed, pieces of metal characters appeared on its walls. Although they couldn't understand the content of the characters, they revived layer by layer, emitting a terrifying light of order. This was the most fatal threat. The world inside the bronze cauldron was extremely dangerous. One careless mistake could lead to death. Even though Su Yan had the Jiuzhou Heaven Cauldron's protection, the small world it created began to distort layer by layer, showing signs of exploding uncontrollably. What a terrifying temperature! What level of treasure is this bronze cauldron? Fan Jian exclaimed. He and Su Yan worked together to release a huge amount of divine power into the Jiuzhou Heaven Cauldron. Although it was extremely difficult for them to activate this treasure, they could create a protective divine light to block out the suppression of the cauldron. Little White Dragon cried out uneasily. Although they had stolen a huge amount of Samadhi true fire, this cauldron was too shocking. Once they lost the protection of the cauldron, they would definitely be burned to ashes. Little thing, we're going to die because of you. Fan Jian was anxious and uneasy. Su Yan also found it difficult to calm down. If this continued, could the Jiuzhou Heaven Cauldron continue to operate? Once the energy in their bodies was exhausted, they would most likely be refined to death by the Bronze Cauldron. We have to find a way to leave. Staying here for a long time is not a solution. Su Yan silently looked for a way out. However, as the temperature inside the cauldron continued to rise, the entire world of fire became extremely dangerous. Now they could only survive in the world enveloped by the cauldron. We're in trouble. We're trapped inside and can't get out. Su Yan smiled bitterly. Now, he could only place his hopes on the humanoid puppet. He hoped that it could really complete its reconstruction and take them away from the furnace. Big brother, do you hear that? Why do I feel like someone is talking beside my ear? Fan Jian suddenly became alert. He could vaguely hear someone talking. Although these words don't sound very clear, I can still understand the language. I heard the uncanny craftsmanship sect. Uncanny workmanship sect. Fan Jian gasped and said, could it be that we have left the mysterious world and come to the ruins of the unholy craft sect? Very likely. Su Yan nodded and said, perhaps the person speaking outside the furnace is an expert from the battlefield. We must have left the path of the Celestial Emperor. As long as we can break open the furnace, we can escape with our lives. Su Yan sighed. He didn't expect to suddenly come here. Although the experience during this period could be said to be unforgettable, Su Yan really didn't want to continue. The ancient celestial emperors were so great. The path they walked was too grand. It wasn't something that Su Yan could explore. This copper furnace is amazing. The temperature it's releasing is too ridiculous. I wonder how frightening the temperature in the furnace is. A large number of Xian people experts gathered here and discussed excitedly. They felt that they had encountered a great opportunity. This furnace was definitely not ordinary. Perhaps it was some kind of supreme treasure. The copper furnace that has been silent in the uncanny craftsmanship sect has opened in the distant world. There were many figures. A large number of cultivators rushed over, all with smiles on their faces. In the uncanny craftsmanship sect, the Xian people had suffered heavy losses in the early stages. However, in the past half-year of excavating, the clan had reaped a great harvest. Just the true immortal puppets alone were dug out. This was a great harvest. Normal true immortal puppets were worth tens of thousands of immortal Dao stones. If they were stronger, their value would be even more shocking. They could easily be worth hundreds of thousands of immortal Dao stones. Look, Immortal Radiant City is here. The experts gathered around the furnace were pleasantly surprised. They all rushed out to welcome them. Even the true immortals were no exception. This was a man in a long silver robe. His expression was cold and indifferent. He was an expert with a dignified aura. Immortal Radiant City was powerful and prosperous. He was the top void immortal expert of the Xian people. His status among the Xian people was extremely high. In fact, Immortal Radiant City was already in a space-time wormhole, illuminating the entire region. If Immortal Radiant City succeeded, then the Xian people would dominate the Emperor ranking. There were 3 spots in the top 10,000. Perhaps they could even occupy 1 or 2 spots in the top 100 competition in the future. What a joke! There were 3,000 sects in the entire immortal heavenly domain. The competition for the top 10,000 was especially fierce. As for the top 100 competition, it was even more ridiculous. It was already a great honor for an immortal sect to occupy a spot. If the Xian people could get 2 spots, it would be enough to bring glory to their ancestors. Don't mention it, everyone. Immortal Radiant City's aura was strong. His cold face revealed a slight smile as he said, "You've all worked hard these days. The family will reward you handsomely." Haha, it's our honor to serve the family. A true immortal walked over and said with a dark face, "I wonder if Xia Kunlun has been caught." As soon as he said that, the atmosphere became extremely tense. These days, Immortal Radiant City personally led a group of experts to search for traces of Xia Kunlun in various spacetime wormholes. Unfortunately, they didn't find anything. Xian Bailing had been captured alive by Xia Kunlun, and this caused a huge commotion. It affected the celestial race greatly, and they lost a lot of face. But Xia Kunlun and the young Devil King seemed to have disappeared from the world. There was no trace of them. That bastard! Immortal Radiant City was filled with anger. He knew I was looking for him, so he hid long ago. But don't worry, the competition is about to start. I don't believe the Celestial Court can sit still. If we don't get a single spot on the Celestial Court, haha, it'll be a great humiliation. Anyway, our patriarch has already said that the competition will start. Even if the Xian people lose a spot, we will kill Xia Kunlun and the others. Immortal Radiant City's face was dark. Xian Bailing had been captured by Su Yen for more than half a year. Who knew what had happened? They didn't even dare to think about it. In short, the Xian people saw this as a great humiliation. Xia Kunlun's bounty had soared to 100,000 caddies of immortal Dao stones. Xia Kunlun, in this world filled with anger, Zhu Xing scratched his head. Was Xia Kunlun really Su Yen? If he was really Su Yen, could he really sit still when the Xian people were clamoring for him to die? Hence, Zhu Xing suspected that Xia Kunlun wasn't Su Yen. Perhaps he was a powerful descendant of the Celestial Court. Although it was a coincidence, Su Yen had died in the darkness. Could he come back alive? In the Qianquan world inside the cauldron, the temperature was high. Fan Jian's ears perked up, listening to the sounds from the outside world. He muttered in his heart. Xia Kunlun was squatting in the cauldron, just a wall away from them. I've heard of the Xian people's Immortal Radiant City. Fan Jian muttered in his heart. I wonder what kind of expression he'll have when he opens the cauldron and sees what's inside? I'm really looking forward to it. Thinking of this, Fan Jian gave a wretched smile. He patted his big bald head and laughed. Take out some immortal Dao stones. At this time, Su Yan's face was pale. He had lost a lot and needed immortal Dao stones to replenish the 9 states' heavenly cauldron. Fan Jian was very generous. He took out thousands of kilograms of immortal Dao stones and threw them in the small world. He patted his chest and said, Don't worry, big brother. I still have a lot of immortal Dao stones. It's enough to stay in there for half a month. Hey, a perfected immortal puppet. At this moment, Su Yen was surprised to see a puppet with a cold metallic aura fall into the cauldron. In an instant, the cauldron burst out with brilliant light. Rolling true samadhi fire, accompanied by the supreme law, rushed toward the puppet. I wonder if this cauldron can be used to forge puppets? Immortal Radiant City was full of anticipation. He knew that some cauldrons in the Uncanny Crafts sect could be used to forge puppets and increase their power. Now, he wanted to test the cauldron's value with a perfected immortal puppet. The rolling true samadhi fire quickly devoured the puppet. However, during the burning process, the puppet disintegrated with a bang. Oh no! The faces of the Xian people gathered here changed. Some of the perfected immortals were so pained that they wanted to kill someone. This was a perfected immortal puppet. Although it was of the lowest grade, it was still worth tens of thousands of kilograms of immortal Dao stones. And it was destroyed just like that. Why are you panicking? Immortal Radiant City said excitedly. This means that the cauldron used to forge puppets is extremely rare. This might very well be the most important cauldron of the Uncanny Crafts sect. The perfected immortal puppet was destroyed. Immortal Radiant City couldn't think of any other reason. It must be that the cauldron's grade was too high, and the perfected immortal puppet wasn't qualified to be placed inside. Could it be that this was a pill that could forge perfected immortal puppets? Thinking of this, Xian Mingqing shouted, "Quick, report this to the family immediately. This is a serious matter. Have the family's patriarch check the scripture pavilion and find out what the uncanny craftsmanship sect is. We must find out what this furnace is." Immortal Radiant City didn't dare to act rashly. It was too difficult to move the cauldron. Even if he got a little closer, the perfected immortal couldn't take it anymore. He felt like he was going to be burned to death by the cauldron. Immortal Radiant City even ordered, "Send people to seal off this area immediately. Don't let any news leak out." Zhu Xing curled his lips, feeling indignant. This great fortune had been obtained by the Xian people? This was too unreasonable. Their harvest here was already shocking enough. Who would have thought that they would find a cauldron of outrageous value? However, only half a day had passed. The cauldron suddenly spewed out a torrent of fire. 3 colored flames were born. Although it was only in a burning state, the heat radiating from it shocked the perfected immortal. He felt like his primordial spirit was about to explode. This is. The perfected immortal's voice trembled. This is true samadhi fire. Heavens, this cauldron can produce true samadhi fire. Could it be some kind of supreme treasure? Crazy! The cultivators gathered here all gasped, their eyes red. Soon after, a bronze puppet began to faintly appear within the furnace. As the walls of the furnace began to glow, lines of metallic characters began to fly out on their own, entering the puppet in large batches. During this process, the puppet's aura changed. It was like a devil lord, a golden immortal, a grand sun, a divine devil. It was quite frightening. Zhu Xing was anxious. It was too unbearable. He wanted to shout that a heaven-defying fortune had been unearthed here. After all, Zhu Xing was here. No matter how heaven-defying the fortune was, it had nothing to do with them. Chapter 15:12. Xianming Cheng's heart couldn't take it anymore. What kind of great opportunity had he encountered? In the bronze cauldron that had been silent for a long time, a puppet was faintly discernible. It emitted an aura that could tear apart the heavens, as if the world's most terrifying fighting machine had been born. The puppet was like an immortal demon in the sky. The energy that was boiling inside was ancient and vast, and filled with a divine might that had existed since ancient times. Unbelievable, there's actually a puppet in here. After forging for such a long time, is it finally out of the furnace? I didn't expect Xianming Cheng's luck to be so strong. Xianming Cheng was excited and shocked. A puppet that had been forged for such a long time, it was hard to imagine how powerful it was. This was equivalent to a dream-level treasure. Xianming Cheng's breathing gradually became heavier. If I knew the creation inside was so amazing, I would have reported what happened earlier. It would have definitely shaken the upper echelons of my tribe. Maybe even the supreme sect leader would pay attention. Now, how could he take the puppet away? This was a difficult problem. Xianming Cheng wasn't in a hurry. This precious land of resources had been sealed inside and out by the Xian people. Cultivators from the outside couldn't break in at all. In short, the creation was right under his nose. How could he throw it away? This cauldron is really not simple. Su Yan was moved. The bronze cauldron had forged the puppet on its own, using the true samadhi fire to reconstruct it. One could see that many cracks on the broken puppet had healed. Even in the process, on the walls of the cauldron, densely packed metal characters shone. These metal characters were quite special. Their meaning couldn't be understood, but each of them seemed to have been transformed from immortal essence. They contained shocking laws and order, and were imprinted on the puppet. Without a doubt, these metal characters contained shocking healing properties. Were these the mysterious characters that belonged to the uncanny craftsmanship sect? Or were they the exclusive characters of another cultivation civilization? In short, the characters imprinted on the puppet were all absorbed by it. The ancient puppet once again revealed strange patterns, combining from the inside to the outside, finally forming a complete metal life. In the end, this puppet almost turned into a bronze color. It's made of ancient bronze fairy crystals. Even if this furnace is a creation of the world, I'm afraid it won't be able to repair the puppet to a complete state. Su Yen murmured. He didn't know how high the value of this material was, but according to the Guardian of Dragon City, this material was the strongest treasure material. It was definitely more valuable than materials like Daluo silver essence. Big brother, what kind of puppet is this? Why did he feel that it was a little perverted? Where did you dig it out from? Fan Jian was dumbfounded. Su Yen had casually taken out a broken puppet, and after refining it in the furnace, it gradually became terrifying. Previously, the Xian people had thrown the true immortal puppet into the copper furnace to try forging it, but it melted immediately. This meant that it was not qualified to be forged by the furnace. Then could Su Yan's puppet be at the Grand Heavenly Realm? Or was it an even more ridiculous level? Fan Jian's heart skipped a beat. This puppet was a little scary. Once it fused with his body, wouldn't he have absolute combat strength? Hearing this, Su Yen calmly said, "What do you mean by dug it out? This was given to me by my big brother. According to him, this puppet is hard to find in the world." Hard to find in the world? Fan Jian was surprised and somewhat in disbelief. He said, "The strong one is the person, and the puppet is just an external object. No matter how strong the puppet is, how strong can it be?" "What do you mean by how strong can it be?" Su Yen frowned and said, "What kind of strong person is my big brother? A Daluo true immortal can only tremble, and a supreme being can explode with a punch. The puppet that he said is hard to find in the world is absolutely amazing." "Don't be so scary." Fan Jian trembled violently. Su Yan's words were too shocking. Who would dare to believe it if word got out? A supreme being could explode with a punch? Forget it. Even if I tell you, you won't be able to understand my big brother's divine might. Su Yen smiled. "In short, your sword sex ancestor is not enough in front of my big brother. A few years ago, he left with the Celestial Emperor. It won't be long before he comes looking for me." Plop, Fan Jian almost lost his balance and stumbled to the ground. He stammered, "I say, are you for real?" Su Yen was too lazy to talk to him. In short, a few words from him were enough to stun Fan Jian. He felt that this Demon King's water was too deep. He couldn't help but ask, "When your big brother comes out, can you introduce me to him?" "You weakling." Su Yen shook his head and said, "When you become a Daluo Golden Immortal, then we'll talk." Daluo Golden Immortal? Do you think Daluo Golden Immortals are cabbages that can be found everywhere? Fan Jian's face darkened. In the entire undying heavenly domain, the number of Daluo Golden Immortals is quite limited. I, Fan Jian, know my own limit. I haven't stepped into the immortal Dao realm, so I don't dare to say that I'll definitely become a Daluo Golden Immortal. 1. At this time, the puppet above the furnace became more and more radiant. It was like an indestructible deity in the sea of fire, spewing out rolling metal words. The puppet's entire body shone with divine light. The vast aura it exuded was ancient and vast. It was like the resurrection of a dead immortal demon, flowing with energy that made one's heart tremble. It became more and more shocking. Even the true Samadhi fire couldn't suppress the puppet. "I think it's about to come out," Xian Mingqing shouted excitedly. He wasn't willing to give up such a great opportunity. He wondered if he was qualified to be the puppet's master. It was still unknown how strong the puppet was now. Finally, at this moment, the puppet resonated with the furnace. In the world of the furnace, billions of metal words appeared. One after another, they were engraved on the puppet's body. This puppet was Su Yan's after all. He could clearly see that the broken bones and internal organs of the puppet were being repaired. This was amazing. It opened Su Yan's eyes. A product of a civilization that didn't belong to this era shocked Su Yan greatly. However, there were still some areas that were difficult to repair. After all, ancient bronze immortal crystals were the strongest treasures. Perhaps only the strongest treasures could be found to completely repair the puppet. In fact, Su Yan didn't want the puppet to be completely rebuilt. After all, once it became the strongest battle puppet, how could Su Yan control it? In the past, Su Yan couldn't fuse with his immortal puppet even at the peak of human Tao. Even with the puppet's current strength, Su Yan couldn't completely control it. One day passed, and when the second day arrived, Yi Zichen was still in a daze. Someone from the Xian people came. They brought a large number of ancient books and handed them to Xian Mingqing. Some of these ancient books weren't even accessible to the core disciples of the family. These ancient books recorded all kinds of secrets and weren't divulged to outsiders. Soon, Xian Mingqing found the recorded content in one of the ancient books. He was shocked to find that the uncanny craftsmanship sect had many of these furnaces. There were forging furnaces and repairing furnaces. These things were also called heavenly craftsmanship furnaces. Heavenly craftsmanship furnaces. Xian Mingqing gasped. Ordinary heavenly craftsmanship furnaces aren't very valuable. If it touches the level of Grand Immortal, then it's a top heavenly craftsmanship furnace. This must be the top heavenly craftsmanship furnace. Its value is ridiculous. Unless one has mastered the uncanny craftsmanship technique, it's impossible to create one. Xian Mingqing's words made the disciple who came to deliver the message excited. This matter has already alerted the forefather. It's said that the forefather will send a clone here to see if he can take the heavenly craftsmanship furnace away. Actually, our family also has a few heavenly craftsmanship furnaces, but their value isn't high. That's right. This item is very valuable. It's worth the forefather taking the risk to come here. If our family's master refiner can decipher the method to create the heavenly craftsmanship furnace, he'll definitely be able to obtain profound forging techniques. Thinking of this, Xian Mingqing's face darkened. If his family's forefather really came, would the fortune sea belong to him? He didn't care much about the heavenly craftsmanship furnace, but he was getting more and more jealous of this puppet. He suspected that this was a restoration-type heavenly craftsmanship furnace that was repairing the puppet's injuries. After a long period of repair, the puppet's value was really unpredictable. The uncanny craftsmanship sect is really shocking. Xian Mingqing couldn't help but sigh. How heaven-defying was this sect in the past to create so many heavenly craftsmanship furnaces. As long as there were enough materials, they could continuously create powerful puppets. Heavenly craftsmanship furnace? Su Yan, on the other hand, was thinking about the hundreds of metal men he'd encountered. Were those really puppets? Could they be metal life forms? The glorious civilization didn't lose its inheritance. Perhaps the ancient celestial emperors obtained the uncanny craftsmanship sect's strongest forging techniques. Su Yan thought to himself, the heavenly craftsmanship furnace is really outrageous. Not simple at all. At this moment, Su Yan's eyes lit up, because he found that the aura leaking out of the heavenly craftsmanship furnace was beginning to weaken. Soon, the entire heavenly craftsmanship furnace fell silent. The furnace fire was extinguished, and it was motionless. There was no life at all. Look, the puppet is coming out. The heavenly craftsmanship furnace has stopped spinning. The puppet is coming out. Near the heavenly craftsmanship furnace, the Xian people were in heated discussion. Coming out at this juncture, could it be? Xian Mingqing suppressed the ecstasy in his heart. Could it be that the creation really belonged to him? Soon, he found that the puppet standing on the heavenly craftsmanship furnace was moving. He was walking, one step after another, toward the outside world. With every step, the might of the heavens surged, and the shocking might of the immortal Tao descended upon the world. A level 3 true immortal here was trembling in fear. He felt that he was completely suppressed, and even thought that he would be killed in one move. Be careful. Several true immortals warned Xian Mingqing, telling him not to act recklessly and cause trouble. In fact, the more it was like this, the calmer Xian Mingqing was. He looked at the tall bronze puppet. Soon, the puppet landed on the ground. With heavy steps, each step was like thunder as it walked toward the outside world. All of a sudden, an ancient voice exploded. It began to reverberate in this small world, deafening everyone's ears. The voice was very loud, and similarly bitter and incomprehensible. No one knew what to say. The voice came one after another. Finally, the heavenly melody of the great Tao exploded, and this bitter voice was understood. My sect has been destroyed, and my vengeance has yet to be avenged. The mournful voice sounded. It was ancient and desolate and spread throughout this area. Those who are pious can obtain the supreme puppet and avenge my sect. The ancient voice sounded one after another, causing Xian Mingqing to tremble. He fell to his knees, and said with an incomparably pious expression, Junior Xian people, Xian Mingqing, is willing to bear the karma of the uncanny craftsmanship sect. Xian Mingqing was very decisive. He kowtowed 9 times in a row. His forehead was bleeding, and he looked very horrifying. He even shouted, "This is a great opportunity. If I were to go through fire and water for my sect in Xianming City," many impassioned words were uttered. But someone couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted in the furnace, "Big brother, stop fooling around. Things are more important." Chapter 15:13. Xian Mingqing's expression was pious and solemn as he prostrated himself in front of the bronze puppet. He didn't care about the hatred of the uncanny craftsmanship sect. In any case, this puppet made him jealous. Kneeling and kowtowing was nothing. Besides, outsiders couldn't see it. Zhu Xing couldn't help but despise him. This Xian Mingqing was too greedy. With his status, how could he kneel and kowtow here? The Xian people's true immortals didn't stop them. If Xian Mingqing got his hands on the supreme puppet, he might even be able to take the heavenly smithing furnace away. However, within the peaceful heavenly smithing furnace, a ghostly wail rang out. It was abrupt, even outrageous. The language wasn't ancient either. It was a language that everyone knew. What the F***ck? Xian Mingqing's expression changed drastically. He wanted to stand up, but Xian Mingqing realized that he was being suppressed. The puppet in front of him was emitting a terrifying aura, suppressing him completely. Xian Mingqing's face fell completely. He felt that he had been tricked. Next, he saw a bald man crawling out of the heavenly smithing furnace. Although he looked battered, his appearance was all too familiar to Xian Mingqing. What the F***ck? Xian Mingqing was going crazy. The Xian people's experts nearby were also shocked. Wasn't that Fan Jian of the Sword Sect? Why was he in the heavenly smithing furnace? Was this puppet his ultimate treasure? Oh no, several true immortals' expressions changed. They instantly exploded with terrifying auras. The Sword Sect and the Xian people weren't on good terms. Fan Jian of the Sword Sect and the Xian people's younger generation had many disputes. Fan Jian once said that when he became a primogenitor in the future, he would take away the immortal slaying sword from the Xian people. If it were anyone else who said such arrogant words, they would have been killed many times over. But Fan Jian was different. He could summon the Sword Sect's ultimate treasure, the dominating heaven sword. Even true immortals of the great firmament were wary of him and didn't dare to easily suppress him. Therefore, the Xian people's younger generation had a deep grudge against Fan Jian. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Several true immortals joined forces and charged at Fan Jian. Big brother, kill them! Fan Jian was also a person who craved for the world to be in chaos. Although he was not as bold as Su Yan, why wouldn't he dare to attack the Xian people's powerhouses? Several true immortals had charged over, and they were all true immortals of the third heaven. Fan Jian knew that he couldn't fight them head-on. In the blink of an eye, the vast sky darkened. The sun and moon lost their light, and then the sea of stars began to shake. Su Yen erupted with power and merged with the puppet. Every move he made was accompanied by world-shattering energy fluctuations. Even Xianming Qing, who was kneeling in front of him, was trembling. He was coughing up blood, and his qi and blood were in disarray. His body was about to rot. Boom! Su Yen raised his palm, and it was actually boundlessly large, covering the sky dome. It was like an enormous cloud hanging from the heavens, and it suddenly smashed down with a rumble, surging with terrifying immortal and devil power. Not good, let's go! Several true immortals who were charging over screamed. Their faces turned green as they hurriedly retreated. But no matter how fast they were, they couldn't escape Su Yan's killing power. The huge palm pressed down, and the true immortals' bodies trembled violently. Blood spurted out of their pores, and their bodies were about to explode. They were terrified. This was power that surpassed the third heaven true immortal realm. It was very likely that it had soared to the fifth heaven true immortal realm. But Fan Jian was only a false immortal. How could he unleash the puppet's power to this extent? Everyone knew that even if they were given a peak immortal Dao puppet, they wouldn't be able to unleash much of its power. Even true immortals would find it difficult. Su Yen was using all his strength. He had to kill these powerful true immortals. Otherwise, if the Xian people were given enough time to react, then the immortal Dao puppet they obtained would be a threat to Su Yen. Bang! Bang! Where the huge palm covered, this small world exploded. One by one, the immortal Dao cultivators' bodies trembled violently. Their bones all shattered, and blood spurted out of their pores, dyeing the void red. It was a shocking sight. The strength of Su Yan's slap was extraordinary. It shattered the bodies of the three true immortals in an instant. Moreover, the immortal and demonic aura that flowed out of his body swept forward and destroyed their primordial spirits. The faces of the Xian people who were gathered here changed drastically. Killing several true immortals with one slap, wasn't this combat power too fierce? However, after doing all this, Su Yen, in his puppet form, staggered. His eyes were a little dark, and he didn't feel good at all. Then, Su Yen was shaken out of the puppet. He took a dozen steps back, and the blood in his body churned. There was no helping it. This puppet was too strong. Although Su Yan's body could barely operate it, his primordial spirit wasn't strong enough. It was difficult for him to unleash the puppet's divine power for a long time. Without the puppet's suppression, Xianming Qing rose from the ground and screamed in anger, "Who are you? Why haven't you been looking for me?" Su Yen suppressed the rampaging blood in his body and calmed down. He stared coldly at Xianming Qing and said, "Now that I'm here, you don't recognize me? How laughable!" "You." Xianming Qing's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He pointed at Su Yen and roared, "Are you Xia Kunlun, or the young devil king?" As soon as he said that, the whole area boiled over. The faces of the Xian people gathered here were ashen, and their eyes were wide with anger. He was actually a wanted criminal of the Xian people, and had been in the heavenly smithing furnace all this time. What was humiliating was that Xianming Qing was worshipping him. Crazy, isn't this too crazy? Zhu Xing trembled. He was a little fearful, a little expectant, and a little excited. He didn't expect to meet Xia Kunlun. He wanted to verify this person's background. "Kill him! Kill him!" Xianming Qing roared. The experts of the Xian people gathered here, and there was also an army nearby to seal the spacetime. It was a tiger's den. Although Su Yen had a puppet, it was extremely difficult for him to control it. He didn't believe that a false immortal could sweep through the entire Xian people's resource secret realm. Although 3 true immortals had died earlier, there were still 8 true immortals of the Xian people here. The commotion here had also attracted the attention of the true immortals, who had sealed the spacetime from afar. Whether he was the young Devil King or Xia Kunlun, this person's appearance had completely thrown this land into chaos. A great battle broke out. Very suddenly, the space-time within 100,000 miles shook violently, rumbling loudly. The true immortals were howling, and the Xian people's army was roaring. The sky was filled with murderous intent, and they rushed toward Su Yan. The battle was exceptionally intense. Everyone unleashed their strongest power to crush him. Heavens, what's going on? In the distant world, some people were trembling as they saw the vast land filled with demons and demons fighting in the heavens. The battle was too sudden, and the energy storm it caused was spectacular. This alarmed some of the Xian people's immortal sects who shared control of the ruins of the uncanny craftsmanship sect. However, they didn't dare to rashly enter the Xian people's resource secret realm. Roar! A loud roar exploded, shaking the heavens and the earth. The Long Day Song immediately transformed, and charged with heavy step. Yin and Yang Qi appeared from its mouth and nose. It opened its mouth and spat out a three-colored flame. It burned the void and burned a large number of the immortal army that was charging over. They exploded one after another. Even the immortal Tao's secret treasures were burned to ashes. True Samadhi fire. Some of the Xian people's true immortals were in despair. A mysterious giant beast had mastered the true Samadhi fire. Even Fan Jian made his move. He charged into the Xian people's army, and his entire body emitted a terrifying sword light. As soon as he made his move, he unleashed his sword body art. He swept through the area and heads flew everywhere. Fan Jian, do you have a death wish? Xianming City was about to go mad with anger. Xia Kunlun and the mysterious giant beast were still manageable, but now Fan Jian had joined in as well. Once he made his move, it would be the birth of 3 peak void immortals. Su Yan swung his fists, and his combat strength soared to the heavens. His moves were bold, and he charged into the Xian people's army. There was nothing to say. He had crippled 3 true immortals. With their combat strength, once they joined forces, they would be able to sweep through the entire resource secret realm, and deal a heavy blow to the Xian people. Xianming City die. Su Yan attacked fiercely, and his wild aura erupted. It was difficult for anyone to withstand his killing blow. As he charged, his aura grew stronger and stronger. His blood boiled. He was going to kill the Xian people's peak void immortal. Before he arrived, an energy storm more turbulent than the ocean had already swept over. Along the way, a large number of cultivators were crushed, and a blood-stained path was blasted open. Su Yan swept through the entire army, and the Xian people's army was defeated. His thick blood qi, accompanied by the majestic aura of the beginning of all things, suppressed the true immortals. What a terrifying Tao technique! Some true immortals doubted their lives. Was this still a void immortal? Su Yan, who had followed the path of the celestial emperor, had a deep understanding of the beginning sutra. He could easily unleash primordial runes to suppress the combat strength of a true immortal. The terrifying aura rushed over, and Xianming City's heart palpitated. He shouted, "Quick, go and summon the experts guarding the treasure vault. Throw the true immortal puppets into the battlefield. Go." With that, a group of cultivators separated from the Xian people's army and spread out, rushing towards the treasure vault. "Big brother!" Fan Jian's expression changed slightly. "The true immortal puppets are indestructible. Once they are thrown into the battlefield, it will be difficult for us to fight them. 1 or 2 is fine, but if there are 6 or 7, we will be in big trouble." Ha 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 ha. Xianming City looked up to the sky and laughed. His aura gradually calmed down, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He said coldly, 1 or 2? That's too petty. My tribe has 12 true immortal puppets. Aren't you all very powerful? I'd like to see how you will kneel and beg me later. Do you think I won't chop you up if you threaten me? Fan Jian was furious, and was about to draw his sword and attack Xianming City. However, at this moment, a black-clothed youth with a killing sword on his back charged towards the Xian people's cultivators. His speed was too fast, and he took out the golden killing sword, and slashed out one after another, killing one Xian people's cultivator after another. The young demon king. Xianming City's expression was ugly. The young demon king was here too. He was flustered and exasperated. He thought that the true immortal puppets would be thrown into the battlefield soon, but now the young demon king had appeared and killed a large group of Xian people's cultivators. Don't worry. Some Xian people's true immortals calmed down and said, "My tribe's ancestors' clone will be here soon. As long as we hold on and wait for reinforcements, we will be able to kill them all. Big brother, go, open their puppet treasury and take them all away," Fan Jian shouted. He knew very well that the young demon king was Xia Kunlun. Ridiculous! Xianming City's expression was cold. The puppet treasury's location was hidden, and it was divided into 3 main treasuries. Even a grandmaster of the occult sect wouldn't be able to find the treasury's specific location in a short time. When the young demon king drew his sword for the last time and was about to kill the last cultivator, Su Yan was shocked. He stared at this dignified young man. Wasn't this Zhu Sheng? Although his life essence had changed after he entered the immortal realm, Su Yan could still feel some familiarity. "You really surprised me." Su Yan put away the golden sword embryo and came to his side. He laughed and said, "There's nothing to say. Take me to the Xian people's treasury." This lunatic! Xianming City was so angry that he laughed. Fan Jian's face also turned green. What was wrong with Su Yan? He called the Xian people to open the treasury, and even called them brothers. Xianming City was here. Could Su Yan persuade the Xian people's experts to defect in such a short time?